THORChain is the first decentralized exchange to swap real Bitcoin. You can use every Bitcoin wallet in the world and you don't have to connect it to a website. Same thing with Ethereum, XRP, BNB, Tron, Doge, and more. Eventually, you'll be able to swap any token from any wallet. THORChain is turning into a full layer one where apps can be built on top of it. And the new app layer unlocks lending, perps, Bitcoin backed stablecoins, token launchpad, NFTs, prediction markets, and much more. And you guys, borrowing just went live on the app layer. It is a cage release. Okay, so it is limited, but it is live. And Hans is currently banging that out right now. So very exciting. So check that out, you guys. THORChain isn't just a decentralized exchange, it's becoming the protocol of pure, uncensored liquidity. Swapping on THORChain is permissionless. There is no KYC, and anyone in the world can use it. To swap on THORChain, go to thorchain.org, click on swap. New features and functionality will be added to the site over the next few months, including the Rogerian primitives like the borrowing. So we're just going to let that stuff bake for a little bit, get stable, and anything will be added to that site, you guys. THORChain's token is called RUNE, and that's spelled RUNE. You don't need to buy or hold RUNE to place a swap on THORChain, but the fees are deducted from your swap are used to buy RUNE, and this is the RUNE that goes to the liquidity pools and nodes. There are no block rewards on THORChain. 100% of the yield is real, and that yield is like 50% APY right now. I'm just saying, you guys. THORChain is also deflationary with 5% of the revenue being burned. If you hold RUNE on a centralized exchange, what are you doing? You need to get it off a centralized exchange into self-custody because the tokens, when they're on a centralized exchange, are being used to short sell RUNE and drive the price down. Once you're in self-custody, you guys, look into bonding your RUNE. Like I said, 50% APY right now. Wild times. And the great site to do that is runebond.com. Super simple, you guys. All you have to do is find a node, request a whitelist, and bond your RUNE. If you have any questions, you can DM the Rune Bond account. THORChain also has another token called TCY. This token is like a preferred stock where 10% of the protocol's revenue goes to these token holders. If you deposited crypto into savers or took out a loan on THORChain, make sure to claim your TCY and start collecting this yield. And anyone can buy this token as well. There's a THORChain community Discord and Telegram you can join to learn all about THORChain, make lots of friends. To go find the links, you go to @THORcommunity. That's @THOR community account, and it is on X. You guys, this space is geared to anyone on their THORChain journey, whether you're brand spanking new or a full-time veteran. There will be something for you here, I promise. Okay, guys, that is the intro. My name is Denny. I also have another account, Patriot Sounds. I've been an educator, content creator on THORChain, going on half a decade now. Very awesome. Let me get signed up as a co-host here. All right, let's get this party started. We'll get Kenton up here. Chad, are you there, sir? Or Kenton?
I'm here.
Okay. I hope you had a very good Thanksgiving, sir. Kenton, you want to check your mic, see if I got you?
I'm here. Yep, mic check. Hi, guys.
You sound perfect, man. I'll go ahead and kick it to you, Kenton, so you can give your regular update, and then we'll get this show on the road.
Yeah. Well, do we? I don't know. Should we let Chad go first, or should I go? I don't know what people want to talk about
in a
more.
week. And you know what? You did give
yeah.
the most amazing update ever, right? So if people don't know what's going on, that's kind of funny. So okay, we'll kick it to Chad. How you doing, Chad?
Okay.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Dude, I'm so excited. I'm like blazing in my mind right now. I'm so excited. I'm not on drugs, but I feel like I am. Dude, this
You excited for the new loans that Ruji's putting out there?
Oh baby. Oh baby, you know it. I'm super excited. I'm blown away, man. This is so cool. And it's based on a proven design, right? Where they have Aave and stuff like this. So
yeah.
And yeah. And guys, you know, if you see any bugs, please, you know, the UI quirks, all that stuff's gonna get worked out. Please communicate them. Go ahead, Chad.
No, I was just gonna say that it's I'm excited to see them kind of taking off and adding more things, and obviously, you know, it's new, so expect issues, expect bugs, whatever. So be careful, be cautious. But it's a really good you know, milestone to hit.
Yeah, permissionless, no KYC access to loans. It's a beautiful thing, and people can bid for the liquidations on those loans. I mean, and if you can use multiple layer ones, and you can choose which layer one you want to get liquidated first in the event of market volatility. I mean, there is nothing like that that exists anywhere else, man. How
Yeah, it's
exciting.
great. It's great.
I love it. Hey, Kenton, did you have anything at all before we get this show started?
Um, well, I guess we could, I don't know. Do you want to just jump right into it? People want to talk about maybe the drama over the past week. Um, if you don't know what I'm talking about and haven't been paying attention, the deck segregation went live on the site on the THORChain swap site. Was it a week ago or 10 days ago? And since then, volumes exploded, and it's caught the attention of some of Thor Swap, Thor Wallet, and everyone else, and they're not happy, right? Because we're taking volume away, and I responded to a lot of their comments. I don't really necessarily want to like rehash everything. Like if anybody else wants to ask me something, I'm more than happy to answer. But I really don't
Well,
want to go. Well,
what's like the like give the kind of like summary of it all, because maybe not everybody knows what you're referring to.
so I mean, well, the gist is that they're not happy, right? We have our own. We create a new front end, and we're taking the users and the volume, which is understandable, guys, right? And it's not. This is the goal isn't to vampire attack, steal users. But that being said, these users were always THORChain users, right?
Mhm.
This was always our audience, right? And and my impetus to do this is actually, but what I should do is give everyone some background and kind of some history, remind everybody why I'm doing this. Um, Earlier this year with Thorfi and Bybit, there's some good we can take out of that, in that it helped point out issues and problems with how THORChain is designed, right? Like the business model, not the code itself, but the actual business model. And the original business model was for THORChain not to have its own front end and let third parties distribute it. Third party wallets and websites, all that kind of stuff, to help prevent regulatory capture, right? That the authorities couldn't shut us down. And I bought into that, guys. I thought, oh, this is a good idea. This is great. Maximum decentralization and blah blah blah. And then, but what happened in reality in January and February is the authorities didn't go after anybody. Nobody was charged. Nobody had a cease and desist. Nobody went to jail. Nothing was shut down. Um, what happened was our distribution network kind of turned on us. And so the idea that we have to, it's a false premise to worry about the authorities using force to shut us down, when in reality, our risk is our distribution network shutting us down voluntarily. And we realize this happened. This is what SwapKit keeps reminding us in ThorSwap, that they had to really fight with the wallets to keep THORChain turned on. And so there wasn't like this was a voluntary action by the other major wallets, right, to turn us on or off. And so for me, what I realized, like we have no control, you guys. Like if these wallets turn us off, like our volume is done, right? And then if you boil it down a bit further, um, THORChain is not integrated into all these different wallets and websites. SwapKit is, and THORChain is not invisible in the background infrastructure that we all thought it would become. I bought into that idea too, you guys. I thought it was great. It's cool. This makes sense. But that isn't how it ended up shaking out. What shook out is SwapKit is the invisible in the background infrastructure. And we are 100% at the mercy of SwapKit, right? If they decide to turn off THORChain, it's done. Our volume is zero, right? We have nothing. And when Near Intense went live on THORSwap in June, I believe it was mid-June, I think. For me, that was like the Manhattan Project testing the nuclear bomb. After that happened, every country in the world was a nuclear arms race. Everyone had to get a nuke, right, to protect themselves. So Kenton went on a nuclear arms race to protect THORChain, because what this means is when you see Near pop up like that on SwapKit, you know they're talking to 10 others, right? And what's going to happen is THORChain destined to be at the bottom of the recommended, we're at the bottom of the recommended list of four. We're going to be at the bottom of the list of 10, right? And so, THORChain has zero control over its distribution. We are totally at the mercy of others. And um, so I recognize this. I'm like, guys, we have to bring our distribution in-house. We have to get control, and we have to monetize our own audience, right? And you know, and in turn, make it harder for us to be shut down. So like think about Operation Choke Point 2.0. The authorities aren't using legal avenues to to censor and silence the crypto community. Just using influence, right? And using the banks to voluntarily do it. That's essentially what happened with is happening with the wallets potentially turning off THORChain. Like there's nothing legally is happening. It's just voluntary. If we have our own site and you're worried about the authorities coming to shut it down, that's actually kind of good because it forces them to use legal routes to do it, which is harder than influence. So yeah, so you know so we'll cross that bridge when it comes. What matters is we need control. We need to control over distribution because we don't. And and then by us having our own aggregator, this is like mutually assured destruction. So if SwapKit wants to turn us off or something, or they did introduce all these other exchanges, and our volume goes to zero, like naturally for whatever reason, now we can compete. We can go compete with SwapKit and find another way to get THORChain in there. So we can compete on price. If we want to press a nuke button, maybe we open source the back end and just destroy the whole distribution model. I'm not saying I want to do any of these things, but what I'm trying to say is THORChain, we need to be back in control. We need to be the alpha and be more in control of our own destiny. And what's really instructive or will be here, I don't know if, we're celebrating the volume right now. We'll see if this is a flash in the pan. But if let's just pretend over the next month, we do see the majority of the volume is all on STO and it's nowhere else, then this entire time, this whole last 4 years, it's just been THORChain's audience the entire time. None of these wallets have brought any new users to us. And this whole entire time has been THORChain's audience. And all we've done is push our own audience away, made it harder for them to use THORChain, made it more expensive. When this whole time they want to be with us. And this is what will protect us and not be so vulnerable to wallets or SwapKit just turning us off. Now we have some agency, right? We have something in our control, and this is what we can focus on growing. And and again, the goal is not to steal users from the other platforms. The goal is to get new ones, but so that when we're out trying to get new users, we're not sending them to THORSwap. We're sending them to our front end, and so we can be a bit more in control of our destiny. We can truly reap the rewards of our labor. And I don't want SwapKit or THORSwap or THORWall or any of these guys to go to zero. That's not it at all. I honestly think we can all grow out of this, right? The pie is big enough for everybody. But right now we just have some, we're setting boundaries. When you set boundaries in a relationship, sometimes it, can be a bit confrontational. But I think in the end, it's healthy for everybody. And but most importantly, it's healthy for THORChain. And so I'm speaking as someone who is only invested in Rune. I don't own any other tokens in any other projects. I don't even own TCY. I don't own Ruji. I only own Rune. And so this is what I'm thinking about. And when I think about it from the investor point of view, like Rune is uninvestable if we don't own the distribution. It just because we have no control, right? So if we want to make Rune investable again, we need to control distribution and start demonstrating we have users, we have a brand, and start growing that. And I'm not saying we should stop with the wallet integrations. I think we should keep going. I don't think, our aggregator, uh, like I'm not saying I want to go and, go talk to Trust and Ledger and try and edge out SwapKit. That's not my goal or my intention. I think we want to keep SwapKit happy as a partner and let them manage that relationship. But any new wallets, game on, right? We should offer them our aggregator. And so this is part of me marketing and promoting THORChain to get new users on our front end. But we want to get new wallets too, right? And so we should offer them our aggregator. Because right now, nobody is selling THORChain, you guys, to these wallets. It's all SwapKit. Right? SwapKit is our salesman to wallets. And they're DEX agnostic. They might be our friends and we have a working relationship. But for them, they don't care how much volume goes through THORChain versus Near, Chainflip, whoever else, right? As long as it goes through SwapKit, which is fine. It's great. That's their business, right? That's okay. But so yeah, so I know it's going to happen. We're going to take their users and whatnot. That's what's going to happen. But I would argue those are always our users to begin with, and those other platforms have had a nice run servicing them. They've made money off them. They've had a big audience. They've gotten for free, and now we're just taking it back. So, yeah, this isn't about trying to hurt others. This is about trying to benefit THORChain, and the unfortunate consequence is some others will be impacted. So I hope
Yeah,
that
but
kind of makes
so
everything
like,
clear.
so like, we were impacted as well, right? Like, um, in the earlier days when we had created BepSwap, in the very early days, which is the kind of the UI, we'd funded it, me and JP, and we'd funded it. We'd, worked with people to build that thing. And then they decided to break off from THORChain. Then we're like, oh, we're going to create our own project called THORSwap, launch our own token, do their own kind of thing in a sense, right? And they call it THORSwap because it was obviously THORChain, specific. And we supported that. Like, I think I was an early investor into that. I think JP was also an early investor. Like, we were supportive of them to break off into their own thing and do THORSwap. And if things kind of continued with like SwapKit kind of came up, but like later, um, and and they're just trying to do what they think is the best for like their user or their community, just by being an aggregator. Like, or we're going to connect with all the different, you know, cross-chain dexes, and we're going to give quotes and offer the best, fastest solutions or the cheapest solutions or whatever, which is like a perfectly valid thing to do. And I actually appreciate SwapKit and everybody else, doing that over the last few years. And that's just like capital markets being capital markets. Like, they saw a demand because wallets wanted to integrate with, cross-chain swaps, but maybe they didn't like THORChain alone because, for valid reasons of like, oh, THORChain doesn't support this coin or this asset or this chain, or we don't want to be reliant on just THORChain because if THORChain goes down, our whole swapping mechanism is broken. So we want to have, redundancy. So we want to have secondary or third or whatever, so that if THORChain does kind of go offline or pause trading or whatever the hell it is, that there's options, and that's perfectly fine and valid. Like, and they should continue to do that. And I'll continue to support SwapKit in any reasonable way that I can, or anybody else for that matter. But like, they're just doing what they're doing with like to be competitive in a capitalistic market, right? Which is like, nobody can blame you for that, right? And I think we're just responding in the same exact way, because it used to be that we would get all the volume because we were the only ones that existed in the industry. We were the ones that invented the notion of a cross-chain liquidity. Like, that was us. And then years later, other people came out, whether it be Chainflip or Maya or Near or whatever, and so, like, we have to respond. Like, we're not getting the volume we used to get, in part because Near came out and started subsidizing all their trades and offering basically zero slip, swaps, which is obviously like, you know, I don't want to say it's cheating because it's not, but like, I don't know what word to use there. So we have to figure out like, how do we get more liquidity, or more volume rather. And we brainstormed about different ways to do it, and this just seemed like the most clearest and simplest way of achieving that goal, to be more competitive in a more competitive marketplace, right? So, um, I certainly never whined or complained about Swap Kit's choices or decisions that they've made. I don't have actually really have a problem with them. They're just providing a really good service for a lot of people out there and give them the best quotes possible. Like you can't knock them for it, right? But at the same time, it's like we want to provide more liquidity. We want to have more volume passing through us. So what can we do in a reasonable way to achieve that? Having our own like kind of UI to do swaps and whatever seemed like kind of the clear and obvious choice because we can be more competitive if we, charge 0 bit fees on that. And by the way, we're not the first one to charge 0 bit fees. Like Near did that, right? And so did like Leo Dex, also did that. It's not so much like specific to even us, So um, it's gonna be interesting to see how over the next like even 4 years how this market's going to mature. Are there going to be more kind of dexes that cross chain dexes that pop up? Are there going to be more swap kits that pop up? And how are they all going to be competitive with each other? How does the market respond to those things? It's a very interesting question. I don't even know the answer, to be honest with you. I don't. I'm just do the best I can to provide as much fundamental value to the THORChain protocol to offer the best offerings we can to garner the most amount of liquidity and volume and feed generation that I can. That's what guides and pushes me more than anything else. So I understand why SwapKit wouldn't be happy about it because they're not getting as much volume as they did the week before or whatever. But that's the same thing for us. We were getting a lot more volume before, and then SwapKit started sending volume to other dexes. And again, not incorrectly. I understand why they did that. I'm not knocking them for it, but that's just the reality. So we're gonna just do what we can to get more volume, to be more competitive. So there definitely should not be any ill feelings. I feel like, and if there are, I would apologize to anybody who does. But like this is just different projects have goals to achieve volume and liquidity, whatever. And we're all just trying to do the best I can to be in a competitive market and perform the best we can. That's how I look at it.
And Kenton, okay, first guys, I put up top, I put Kenton's article he made answering every single question he could crowdsource from everyone over a long time on various different social media platforms. Kenton, I've been, I'm in many groups, many bond provider, node operator groups, many different, little side things here and there. I've kind of been getting opinions from all the node operators, bond providers, even some LPs, and I'm going to give it to you as best I can in kind of like an aggregated sense. But I would like to talk real quick about a conversation we had, I think, almost 2 years ago. Crazy how time flies. And actually, Chad was part of the subject. You mentioned to me how cool you thought THORChain was because on Dev Discord, here we have a bunch of developers. They're coding in the open. Everything's open source. And we're building it in real time. And literally anyone can come in and add their contribution, can make comments, completely transparent and open for anyone to audit. The whole thing. We're building this in real time. And I think that really struck a chord with you. And your behavior over the last, I want to say half a year since we've been doing these spaces, is emblematic of that. One thing that I noticed on the article thing that I will admit I was slightly annoyed by was a lot of the questions that you answered. You have been stating them ad nauseum on X, Discord, Telegram, and various spaces that we have done, right? And I understand people don't have the time to listen to every space, but I want you to know something, Kenton. Based on all the opinions that I have gotten from people, they are overwhelmingly appreciative of your transparency with your team. And sure, there's probably some open questions to answer with the Unstoppable guys. But if there is one thing I would say the theme is, they say, thank you. Good job for being so transparent. Good job so far. But they want you to focus on what you do best. And that's market THORChain. Because there is no one better who knows how to market THORChain and is representative of the ethos that we all share and that we're all here to do. So I want you to know, man, you have this desire to always be transparent and to always get, and that's awesome. And you have done that. Do not feel bad if you want to shift and going back to marketing, because I know you spent 2 days writing that up, and that's labor lost, right, for THORChain. So great job, man. And you know what, to the interfaces, I love these guys like SwapKit, Leodex. I see Oleg. These guys help form THORChain, help bug fix in real time when we push new primitives or add things, or they streamline the process of integrators. Like they help so much. And so it was really a shared effort between all of us. But Kenton, again, to bring it back, you are doing a great job when it comes to transparency. And I think the whole community just wants you to know that. So I'll stop there.
Oh, thanks. I really do appreciate it. I do appreciate people. So I've gotten direct DMs, saying thank you. Guys, it does help. It does, trust me. Because like I can't, we're not in the same room, right? We're all on the internet. Can't see anyone's face. I don't know what you guys are thinking or feeling. So that does help. Thank you very much. And does keep me going. And honestly, you guys, writing that, like, I am marketing THORChain right now. Like, remember what I was saying? If you guys have been following the spaces, when all the Bitcoiners crap on Peter Schiff, is free marketing for Peter Schiff, right? Remember I told you guys about Near. If you're so worried about Near, just stop talking about it because you're marketing them for free. This last week has been all free marketing for THORChain, right? This has all been free marketing for our new front end. And I'm letting the Thorwall and THORSwap guys know this. Like, if you want people to not know about our front end, stop talking about it, right? Stop making this stuff public. You just gave me a perfect platform to showcase the new interface. And I like, yeah, I do pride myself on being pretty honest, and so you gave me the opportunity to show who I am, right? And in turn, Patriot, you saying everybody responding and liking that just goes to show the whole community, is it's not just about behind me, but behind being honest and open and doing things right. That's a lot of the things I'm doing or trying, ideas I have, I feel like are self-evident, and that I'm part of this community too, and that I think you guys will all like them, right? Because I listen to you. I know what you guys post and say and complain about. I listen to our customers, and so that's what I'm trying to do, right? And I think that's why you guys all support me, because I do listen to you. And so the 2-day write up and everything, like, yeah, it's annoying. Like, I got to stop everything I'm doing and respond, but guys, it's good. This is good marketing for us, right? Because and it brings us together, helps us build morale, right? I've heard from uh like OG rune holders from like 2019. They're like, finally, like, feels like we're kind of going in the right direction. And like, this is how we heal, guys. Right? This has been a tough year. And um I believe what I'm doing is right to get us in the right path, to get us going in the right direction, and something that we can all agree on. And if this whole community, if we're all on the same page and we're all moving in the same direction, I mean, like, watch out. I don't think that's, to me, this is why I keep talking about a brand. Like, you don't have to have like the cheapest product in the world or the best product in the world. You need the best community, the best brand. And I think we have that, right? And that's what I want to, so it's not just me. It's everybody that you're talking to, Patriot, and all those group chats and everything. It's just all of us, right? And what I'm doing is trying to, give you guys the ability to really, sell be a part of this too, right? And sell THORChain and make it succeed, right? We're all doing this together. So, thank you for your guys' support. I really do appreciate it. It really does help. And guys, Reggie's coming along really well. He sees how passionate this community is. He's like, guys, you guys, everyone loves THORChain. And he's like, he's got great ideas where, I know he's not seeing a lot of the fruits of her labor, but a lot of it's like foundational work. Um,
Yeah, it takes
but
a long time.
it does. And I'm telling you guys, we're planning. We have big ideas. We're already working on website version 2.0. Like we are gonna I expect probably won't be till like February to really kind of you start seeing more, but like we've got all kinds of ideas. Like, and only thing is gonna stop us is money, right? We're just we have enough money to do this, but we've got so many ideas to just get stuff out there. And I'm convinced it's going to work. I think we have a product that we have a real product that solves a real problem, and we just have to get that out to people. And with all everyone's help and support, we'll get there. Um, so yes, I am, guys. This is part of marketing. I'm working on it, but so thank you.
Perfectly said, Kenton, and beautifully said as well, Chad. You know what? We're 30 minutes in. You guys I think we got it done. You guys want to move on and talk about THORChain stuff now? Proper?
Sure.
Love it.
Unless somebody from the community wants to comment or come up.
Yeah. Okay. I think got some requests here. I'll go ahead and get them up. Yeah. Well said. And yeah, Kenton, I agree. I think we do have the best community and just a diehard group of individuals, right? We got
By the way, like
no quitting us. Go ahead.
the idea of like memless and having like a a very cheap like 0 bit or 1 bit UI, like that's been around in THORChain community for like probably over 2 years. Like
Yep.
I remember I was living in, I think it was Japan or something, and I was talking to Eric Voorhees about this notion like years ago in 2023, I want to say, maybe 22. Can't remember exactly. It just never got prioritized over other things, and it's like so this idea has been kind of ruminating for quite a long time, even before like Near even existed. And maybe even pre SwapKit. I don't recall how old SwapKit is, but it's possible. So it's always been kind of a thing that on the back of my mind for a long time. And I was actually planning on building the UI myself, but then Ken came with the Unstoppable Wallet people, and thankfully I didn't have to spend my hours putting together, and they did quite a fine job of it in the end. But by the way, I did see, I think it was yesterday, I saw a $6 million trade via Memless. I think it was a Bitcoin to ETH trade that occurred yesterday. And I was just like, wow, that's a mega huge trade via the Memless feature, which is pretty interesting to see.
Oh my gosh, you're so right about that. So exciting. We have a couple speakers up here with the Coke. I think you requested first. What do you got, buddy? And then we'll go to WB.
Oh man, first of all, so much was said already before. And I think Kenton and Chad actually addressed a lot what I had in mind. But Kenton, you're doing amazing job. Just wanna come up here in the same groups that Dennis and yeah, I love your approach. At first, I was critical, like, hey, why are not responding? Like there is so much like chaos going on. But you took your 2 3 days. I know it took you a lot of time to make this right up, and I absolutely love this approach. You took your time, you addressed what's going on. So, Kenton, you're doing perfect job. You get my, you're getting my like high five.
You're getting a little baggie of Coke if you guys ever meet in real life. That's what's happening, Kenton.
I'm cutting out again. That's crazy. I have
No, you're okay.
You weren't that bad.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, Kenton.
Thank you, Coke. Thanks.
You
buddy.
did really good job. I really like this approach. Like the dogs are barking everywhere, and you don't have to like throw a sausage to every dog right away. You just wait your time, and then you approach everybody at one point. So I really like how you did. Good job.
By the way,
Yeah,
Kenton,
cheers, man. Thanks.
random question for you. Which do you use a dashboard to track volume through STO versus other Thorname interfaces?
I just been looking at X Scanner. I don't know if there's any. What else do you guys use?
I don't know. I know that I've actually used in the past. I've used THORSwap's UI had tracks how much one versus another, but I haven't looked in a while, so I'm not sure if they support STO or not.
I like runescan.io. It's not bad either. I look at that occasionally.
Okay.
I wonder if Ray Analytics, he might have something. I can't remember. Right, that's how you say it. Rake Analytics.
Oh yeah. Ryan something or whatever it's called.
I haven't looked at Thor charts in a while, but there's probably something on there too, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. We have.
I'm always
Go
a
ahead,
bit.
Benjamin.
I'm always a bit like I always try to. I don't want to jinx it, right? It's only been a week, right? So it'd be nice to see how the next month goes, right? This is sticky, so
Yeah, yeah. We definitely have to give it some time. I heard something through somebody that like some of the volume we were seeing was from the Bybit situation. I guess that's what somebody was saying. I don't know if it was true or not or what, but I just heard some sort of rumor that like some of that volume is not so much through like, normal typical market conditions, but just the Bybit hacker setting more funds or something. I'm not quite sure.
I've heard the same rumor, and I didn't want to like, yeah, it might. That's why I want to see if this is just real volume or hacked funds or not. Yeah, so hopefully it's not hacked funds.
Yeah, we definitely do
Yeah.
not support criminals at all.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we hate that.
Maybe I'll just quickly say that. Like, so we do have a wallet blacklist on the front end, and I was actually talking to Ibik this morning about it. Like, I want us, right now should be good enough, but it'd be nice to work on one that's like maybe even the best in the world, right? Put some real effort into it so we can try and prove and demonstrate to the market that we don't want this, right? The base layer we can't. The base layer is permissionless, right? We can't do it there, but we can try our best on our front end. So that would be say like phase two, I guess, right? We'll get everything else shipped, and then we can look at doing a better job on the blacklist.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have another speaker, WB. You want to check your mic? What you got for us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, buddy.
Awesome. This is a question for Kenton, actually two questions. The first question is related to how you're unifying everything for THORChain.org. You're moving the blog there, you added swap. I was just wondering if you're gonna move an Explorer there, blockchain Explorer, like THORChain.net, if that's gonna be linked in at all. I think Nine Realms makes that, I'm not sure, but that was question one. And then question two is, will STO support Rujira features?
So let's start with question two. Yes, I want the STO site to have all of the apps as well. So it'll be everything.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's the plan. And then great, pragmatic monkey. He's on board with that too. Like, and we're just gonna slap it. Like, this is all THORChain, right? It's not. You don't know anything about Rujira branding. It'll all be THORChain. But yeah, PM he's on board. He sees it makes sense too, so it's good. And so we'll have like a little friendly competition between our two front ends, right? We're both going to make money, right? Um, so we'll have two different front ends with the same things basically. Your first question is really good. That's a great question. Right now, no. Like THORChain.net, we'll leave that alone. But THORChain, basically everything on THORChain.org, we're gonna like clean it all up. That's what we're working on right now. We just hired a graphic designer. Um, I have to give a shout out to Emil from Control Wallet. If you guys remember, Control did their rebrand from XDeFi to Control, and Control, they got a nice, clean, good looking website. So I asked them who their graphic designer was and put us in touch. And so we're using them, and their portfolio is really sharp. So what we're using them to do a light rebrand on the .org site to basically incorporate the swap interface and the blog, and that's it. So it'll all be, it'll look like it all goes together, right? So it's consistent. But this is like we're working on this over the next couple months. So hopefully the the redo of the .org site will be done when all the features are done on the swap site. So they should coincide being done at the same time. And then after that, we're talking about maybe we'll redo the site all over again. Like, this is just a kind of a quick make it look good, and then
A
maybe look at,
facelift.
yeah, facelift, and then we're talking about doing like, I don't know what's after a facelift, like a full on everything. And because part of it was all this talk about rebranding, right? Are we going to get a new name, new logo, all this kind of stuff? And so I thought, okay, we'll just do a little bit now to get the site looking good, have it make sense. And then in new year, next year, we'll see how it's going. Maybe we need to rebrand. And because if we're going to rebrand, right, then we'll do a full total, do everything properly. Guys, I'm still of the opinion we don't need to. I think this past week is a great demonstration of how strong and good the THORChain brand is. And like it's it's tough times what bring people together. And a few years from now, we can all look back at this like we're in the trenches together. It's like when like soldiers, like guys from World War II, they have a connection that is impossible for them to have with any other human being, right? They just had went through something that no one else can explain. This year has been really tough for all of us. All of you guys that are still here, still listening, still in the trenches. No one's going to understand what this was like, 4 years from now. And so I feel like if we rebrand, we kind of lose that. It's so because the
Do,
the idea of rebranding is to try and distance yourself from the past, and it's like, well, do we really? And you guys all appreciated my openness and candor in my article, and I think that is ultimately what all humans appreciate, and we should
but that
wear.
that was the whole
Yeah,
reason that Ruggira was branded the way it was to separate it from the past problems THORChain had, right? And in my opinion, it is a little bit confusing for anybody coming into this ecosystem. There's no app layer type deal on other protocols, and maybe the branding problem doesn't have a solution in terms of if we need a rebrand or not, but it could get unified at least. Maybe we don't have to go away from the THORChain brand, but THORChain could absorb the Ruggira brand, possibly. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but the two brands is a little bit confusing in my opinion.
That's why the
I agree with you there. That's why we talked about leaving the full, like a totally awesome, amazing job on the website till next year. Because if let's say we do merge with Ruggira, do we change names then, and then have to do proper rebrand? Do we keep the THORChain name? So it was like, let's just deal with this next year, right, and figure it out then. But dude, I completely agree with you. Our from a sales and marketing point of view, and not just for users but for investors, got to be so much easier. We just get rid of the Regi token and just bring it all in house. I've been opposed to JP about it earlier this year because I'm worried people are just going to dump on us. And so if we did it now type thing. So, but from a sales and investing point of view, it's so much easier if it's just all together completely.
Well, I'm glad that it's being thought about.
Yeah, we've talked about the rebrand a lot, to be honest. And so yeah, so to do when I say full rebrand, what I'm talking about is like all kinds of images and graphics, like I'm talking about making it look really sexy and cool. Like if you go to MetaMask's website, for example. So uh yeah, we just that's a job like that is like 6 to 8 months as well. Right. When you see a site that looks really good and cool, it takes several months. So we just don't have that time. And so we want to do just a light kind of refresh, get the site live. So it just kind of makes sense. In the new year, we can start selling that. And then we can worry about a 6 to 8 month project after that.
we are going about 45 minutes in the space. I want to make sure we get to Chad here a little bit. So with the Coke, if you want to hold your question, just so I want, because I have some questions here that the community, I want to make sure we get them answered. So is that okay? We switch guys, switch topics.
Yeah, fine on me.
Okay, perfect.
Can
Okay,
I say
Chad,
one last thing before stepping down?
go ahead.
Chad, you're the man. That's it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I will just take 1 minute, guys. I'm sorry, Danny. Guys, we don't have a text aggregator. We don't have SubKit. How can we even have a conversation about rebranding if we don't have our product aligned? It's like Amazon. They used to sell books. They never discussed like rebranding to having we sell everything. And same thing as well. As long as we don't have everything all sorted out, we don't have app layer, we don't have all the tokens that we can swap on STO. I think that we should even not touch the idea of rebranding. If we have everything done, everything works brilliant, and we still don't see users, we still see confusion in the market, of course, then we discuss rebranding. But at the moment, it's just like too soon.
I agree, Co. That was my sentiments exactly. Let's get everything done first, right? No, none of this almost is coming, should be in a few weeks, whatever. Let's just get it all done first. So totally agree.
I agree with both of you. Yep, 100%. I think we're all in alignment here. Okay, Chad. It's been 2 weeks since we last talked to you. Anything you well, first, yeah, I'll just give you the floor if there's anything what you're working on, progress on things, and then maybe we can get more specific from there.
Yeah. So a lot of the last 2 weeks has been working on like bugs or mainnet issues or investigating things or whatever. So that's been kind of like been a time suck in a lot of ways. But I did want to talk about something because the last time we spoke, like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about intents, and Kenton was expressing concerns around some of the aspects of the design around like in some circumstances funds being like kind of abandoned because people just abandon their funds and the protocol just kind of follows suit. And Kenton was saying that he wasn't comfortable with that. We were kind of talking about it on the kind of throwing out ideas and kind of batting around different concepts on this space a couple weeks ago, and I just kind of wanted to come back to it because like I've been thinking more about it over since then, and I've the current kind of solution to this problem that I've been kind of working on, and Kenton, you're welcome to tell me if you like this approach or you don't like it, of course, is that like if you get to such a situation where somebody provides an intent, like they want to open an intent, they want to sell some random Solana token for some like USDC or whatever, and no solvers come to kind of give them the USDC because the price is too high or whatever the reason might be. And we can't, refund the user their random Solana token because we don't know the value of that token. We don't have a pool to tell us the price of the token. So we can't just like spend gas tokens to send them back their funds because then the protocol is at a loss in that scenario, which could be exploited in a kind of grief attack of some kind. So the solution that I'm thinking now is that like, if you get into that situation, we can't do a refund because we don't know the price. Instead of just abandoning the funds, which is what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, there's basically like an auction. There's like a partial liquidation, like a 10% liquidation of those assets. Like that's basically auctioned off on chain, and so people can say, "Oh, I'll give you, 0.02 ether for that, 10% of that token or whatever that is." Has to be of the gas asset of that chain, but you can have people start kind of auctioning off this, and then obviously the highest bidder more or less wins, which would be fairly close to the 10% of the value of those tokens, most likely within a few basis points. And so then the protocol gets the gas they were using to make the bid. The bidder gets the 10% of the tokens, and then the remaining 90% goes back to the original user who opened up the intent. So that way, like, you do get a loss in that scenario as a user, but you only lose 10%, not 100%.
Yeah, definitely better than nothing. And actually, maybe I should say thank you, Chad, for always letting me, criticize your ideas and not taking it personally. I hope. Um, uh, yeah. What about? Could you, instead of going? Forgive me, maybe I misunderstood you. Can it start at like 1% of the trade, then 2%, then 3%, and work its way down to 10? And like kind of like
Yeah, you could do something like that,
a-
but there's a little complexity around that. I mean, and that is that, like, if it's 1%, then like, obviously there'll be numerous occasions where the value is not there to provide the initial kind of bid, because the minimum bid to start is 3x the gas, just to ensure it's something worthwhile to some small degree. So it's possible that 1% is not worth 3x gas, right? But maybe 2% is, maybe 5% is, maybe 10% is. that becomes more complicated from a bidder's perspective if what you're bidding on is kind of like sliding over time. Do you know what I mean? That might be kind of like challenging and like adds a lot of complexity, because even just adding this functionality that I'm talking right now, like more or less kind of like doubles the complexity, doubles the size of this feature, just because it adds an entire new like auctioning bidding mechanism, and changing your bids and topping up your bids, and then refunding for this, and then the minimum bids above there's like a bunch of complexity that comes with it. So I'm already kind of like doubling the complexity of what an intent actually is in the code base perspective. Doing something like what you're suggesting, while it's not a bad idea necessarily, I have some questions about like how that would actually kind of like work out, logistically speaking. But I'm also be concerned about even further, you know, complicating the code base as it is.
I get it. Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm just trying to think. Am I the only one who doesn't like the idea of the trade, like of the trade going to zero after a few days? Like, has anybody else expressed
Uh,
concern about that?
you're the only one that's expressed it directly to me, but I do think what you're expressing is a valid concern, right? Like, I don't think you're crazy or whatever. I mean, obviously, I don't want anybody losing any money in any circumstance if I can reasonably help it, you know. Which is why I've been continuing to think about this problem even after our chat a couple weeks ago. So it's a valid concern, to have, and it only matters when the asset you're providing is a non-pool asset, right? If you're providing Bitcoin and you want to purchase some random like meme token on Solana or whatever, then you wouldn't have the auction. It would just do a refund, right? Because the asset you provide us, we already know the value of it. We know how much to take out to pay for the gas, and even if like you do provide a non-pooled asset to start this whole thing, you can always just like cancel it, right? Like you can send in some Solana tokens, some dust for gas purposes, and we'll just use the gas you gave us, so to speak, and we'll send you back your meme tokens, right? Like you have the ability to pull back your funds. It's not like it's going into a black hole, so to speak. But I can only do that for so long. We're not going to keep churning your assets forever and paying the gas to even do the churns.
Yeah, 'cause I just think about it from like the sales point of view. How do you sell this, right? How do you explain it? And it's like when you have to put an asterisk on something, it's really hard to sell.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, and and I forgive me, Jack. We just kind of go back to first principles. Why do we need to use the intense design? Why can't we just use DEX aggregation?
Yeah, so I think the intent is that DEX aggregation adds a lot more complexity from like a coding perspective, because it's making assumptions about what the aggregator is able to execute on, because like with the price execution you get on the first swap, like within THORChain, and what the price is after that point, like say that's like 20 minutes into the future, let's just say hypothetically, then like obviously the markets can shift in that time span. And it also like adds more complexity of like, oh, how much am I actually going to get on the other side of this thing? And then what if the DEX aggregator like fails because of some situation? And okay, we have to do like a refund, but like we don't send you the thing you're actually looking for. You guys send you like the ether tokens instead. There's a lot of like kind of edge cases that pop up. And if you do something like internally to THORChain, it's all kind of, it's more of like Apple-esque way of doing things. And you kind of own the full pipeline, similar to how you own the full pipeline of like of volume, like you've been talking about earlier in the conversation. And it becomes easier to reason about, easier to quote. You'd have more reliability, more, a clearer sense of like outcomes in a sense. And I think one of the things that JP and I have been kind of like agreeing on lately is that there's real benefit to THORChain becoming kind of more of like a one-stop shop, rather than being reliant on other protocols that have their own intricacies and complexities and whatnot.
Definitely agree with the one-stop shop. Absolutely. Yeah, I was just trying to think that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like
Seriously.
I think we want to be able to go to SwapKit or wallets or whatever it is like in the future, and just say that like we just support 99% of the assets and trade pairs that you that you want. You know, I think JP got a little frustrated because he works on Voltsig, and they were working on like a swapping mechanism on Voltsig. It's like kind of UI, and obviously he wanted to use THORChain, but he felt quite limited because THORChain doesn't support Solana, and it doesn't support this token, and it doesn't support this, and it's like, well, I'm kind of forced to use SwapKit, because if I really want my users of my Voltsig UI to have a great experience, a great UI, great UX, then just using THORChain by itself is actually quite limiting because of the lack of support for certain chains or certain assets and whatnot. And so that was kind of, for him, that was like, I really need to work with Chad to help make THORChain more one-stop shop so that I could integrate with THORChain and have really great, wide range of assets and chains supported, so that all the users of my Voltsig wallet are happy, and can do all the things they want to do, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of the driver behind it all, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I'm just wondering um, if you go live with intents on your initial
Yeah.
design, where after 3 days you lose your money. Um, if that code is simpler, get it going, get it live, see how it works, and then maybe it's not an issue. People are losing their money, and then then we don't have to worry about it. Or we do see it's an issue, then we're like, okay, we really have to come up with some backstop. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said earlier, like I don't expect intents to be like a high throughput of volume. Like I don't expect our volume to increase by any more than like 5%, to be honest with you. 10% if we're lucky. If we're really lucky, that would be high in my mentality. And I don't really think we'll see a lot of volume. Therefore, like how big of a problem this is probably not going to be that huge. And I don't think people are going to be making like $6 million trades with random meme tokens, like that. Is it possible? Sure, of course it's possible, but people aren't investing huge amounts of money into very small market cap tokens in general. That's generally true. Obviously not definitively true. So I don't think it'd be that big of a problem, but if there's a reasonable kind of design or reasonable approach we can make to minimize risk or minimize people's, having a bad UX or whatever, with as long as it's not like overtly complicated or might cause more problems than it solves in some way or shape or form, then I want to make every reasonable effort I can to make the product as idiot proof as we can reasonably make it.
You're absolutely right, man. I'd be surprised if it's 10% as well. I think the volume's gonna be really small. But
Yeah.
but we can't look at that in isolation, because someone's got $100,000 in crypto and they go buy 2 grand of a meme coin. Well, they also have 50 grand of Bitcoin or in Ethereum, right? So like if they place a $2,000 trade on Thorchain Intense and they lose it, they're like, screw this, this sucks. I hate Thorchain, I'm never coming back. We lose their other 100 grand that they otherwise would have traded on Thorchain, right?
Yep.
So it's a holistic thing, right? So that, yeah, do we want to put in this effort and work to get 5% more volume? Well, we could get how do I say, you understand what I'm trying to say, right? It can grow the whole pie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
get the whole wallet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I've been continuing to think about this problem, the last couple of weeks, and trying to find a decent solution. And if somebody puts a $2,000 trade and they lose 10% of their thing because of some edge case scenario or whatever, like it's not great, of course, but you still got 90%, so it's not not crazy bad or anything like that, you know. And in the protocol, that 10% that you lose actually becomes system income for the protocol, so the protocol actually makes a little bit of money in that scenario.
What do you think the likelihood of someone's trade not getting filled? Like why wouldn't an intent trade get filled?
Um, the reasons there's really like two primary reasons I think about, and there's probably more, but these are the ones I think are the most likely. Either A is you put up some number of tokens and you're asking for Y number of tokens, and the value of Y number of tokens is just like this is not enough meat on the bone, so to speak, for a solver to like say I'll solve it. You know, if you're putting up like $100 worth of Bitcoin and you want $150 worth of, this is obviously a really extreme and stupid example, but $150 worth of some Solana token, then obviously nobody's going to like solve that, right? Because it's a loss for them. Or maybe it's like you put up $100 and you're asking for $99 worth of or $99.90 worth of this, and just not enough meat left in the bone to make it worthwhile for for a solver to solve, because that solver's got to go out and acquire those tokens somewhere, and they're probably going to pay 5, 10, 15, 20 bips, whatever it's going to be, to acquire that token. So they still need a little kind of little extra on the a little extra meat in the bone for the to make it worth their time or effort to do so. So that's kind of one scenario. I think the other scenario is that it's just a token that nobody really cares about. It's like some that there's nobody really wants to solve it because it's just too far small market cap, and the price fluctuation is too high to warrant the time or the price exposure, because that person solving has to take on the price exposure of that asset for whatever time period that is. It may not be long, and maybe just be a minute or 5 minutes or something short, but maybe in that time span, they're just like, I don't want to take the risk of this token kind of going down in value and I get less, or something of that nature, one direction or the other. But those are the most likely scenarios. Or the third scenario is that like just no, they're all the solvers are out to lunch, and nobody's actually paying attention. But we're gonna work on some relationships with some individuals and to help kind of keep an eye on intents and be solvers to solve all the intents coming into the protocol.
Cool. Patriot, you want to go, or does anybody?
No, you did that was a great conversation, guys. I had nothing interesting to contribute. I do want to pass the mic to Scott. He does have his hand raised. If he has something he wants to add, Scott, if you want to check your mic, and we'll move on.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was one of the ones who had the concern about the intents when Chad was discussing them. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to work this out. It is a far better solution than just having it drop, so I'm feeling way better about this. My only question is, if you do a 10% auction, if say the gas ends up only being 4 or 5% instead of 10, does THORChain just keep that other 5 or 6% as income, or is there some way that could be sent back to the original trader? Because if you could send any unused back to them, that I think would be absolutely ideal. Although it's already, I'll say it again, far better than what you were talking about. I feel much better about this. Thank you, Chad, for working on this.
In the current design, and like 2 weeks ago, I'm still open to modifications or ideas or whatever. But the current design is like it's you're auctioning off the 10%, and so if you're auctioning off 10% and that's worth $100, let's say, and I'm putting up $45 worth of Solana tokens, and
Did I rug or did Chad rug?
I think Chad rugged. I can't hear him.
Okay. We'll have to get him back. Oh, there he is.
Sorry, can you hear me guys good?
Yep, we can hear
My
you now.
bad. Sorry, I got a phone call. Somebody called me and I had to hang up on them. So if I'm putting up $45 for this $100 worth of this token, then like in theory, somebody should provide, try to outbid me at $55 or $60 or whatever, right? Unless you want to do a thing where when you're auctioning this thing, you say like, I'll give X tokens per Y tokens. So instead of being like the full 10%, you say, I'll buy 2% for this price. I'll buy 7% for that price. You could do something like that. But in the current design, you're auctioning off the 10% for whatever is the highest bidder in this market, whatever that is. And in theory, that should be close to the 10% value if it's a healthy market. But if it's not, the protocol would get $45 worth of the Solana tokens as system income. The auction, the bidder would get the 10% of the tokens, whatever the market value of those things are. And then obviously the person who created the intent initially gets the 90%. Does that make sense?
Scott, if you're speaking,
Oh,
your mic.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, that makes sense. And yeah, way better. I'm really excited about this now because Kenton's absolutely right. Being a one-stop shop, that is a huge thing to be able to say. So I think it's important to do this if it is workable and practical. So keep up the wonderful work, Chad.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott. You always ask good questions when you come up. Chad, I do have a question. It's actually it's like three people. I'm just gonna roll into one. They just want a general update on limit swaps. What's going on, how's the behavior been, things like that.
Yeah, limit swaps has been frustrating, to be honest with you. It's not gone as well as I'd like from a coding perspective. There's been issues and bugs, and we're working through them, of course. But what's like really annoying about it is that like and this is just like a thing about especially mature blockchains in general, but especially mature ones, is that like your kind of your dev cycle is very, very slow. Right. So if you have a bug and you want to fix it, the amount of time that it takes to actually get that released and changed and then see, how it fares, how it does, for us is like typically a month on the low end, maybe a month and a half. That's a really long time, to wait. So it's very slow. Versus if you're like Unstoppable Wallet and you're creating you got some bug, you can find the bug, patch it, and have it like live within hours. You know what I mean? It's just like a much faster cycle. In fact, I remember when we first launched THORChain on a single chain castnet. This is back in like 2020, I guess. There were so many issues in the first like 2 or 3 months. There were just like tons of bugs and issues. And again, when we launched multi-chain castnet, but it was so young then that we could like make patches and changes and then release a new version like the same day or the next day or whatever. So it was like you could iterate a lot faster. So you could find these issues, patch them, and get them done. But like because Thorchain is so kind of mature as a protocol, and we have a much slower kind of dev cycle, in part because of like of requirements and agreements with like some partners about how we have to release a new version, and then we have to wait weeks before it can actually like hit the chain, so to speak. It just slows the process, so it just makes it much more painful to actually like get all these things kind of like sorted. And it's a lot slower than what it's been historically. So it's actually rather quite frustrating. So I'm actually been a little bit annoyed actually with the limit swap stuff. But as we're finding issues or bugs, things are getting patched. The next release, 3.15, which will come out, I think, in the beginning of January. We'll have patched all the bugs that we're aware of at this time, at least, and we'll continue just to kind of like iterate as we need to. But the problem is, it's just taking much more time to do all this than it would have, years ago. That's just kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry, are limit swaps currently going, or are they paused until the update?
I think they're currently going, but there's like a couple bugs of like limit swaps like not executing exactly like when it needs to. Like it kind of executes a little bit like with a little bit slower, if that's the right word to use, or needs a little bit more space to execute than it should. For example, I think trade assets is having some problems because of the way trade assets works is structurally different than secured assets. So there are some bugs now, but you can do it now. Just you're not going to get the execution to be like right on time, so to speak. Unfortunately, again, this is all be patched in 3.15.
Gotcha. Okay,
But yes.
perfect. Okay, I got those questions are done. And now it's a simple lateral move. How's Memolus going? I know we had those big swaps. Are you happy with Memolus, or has there been a little few hiccups there?
I haven't seen any bugs with Memless quite yet. I've seen somebody, I think it was like earlier today, had done a Memless transaction from a sect, and that's not recommended for a host of reasons. Um, and I'm not quite sure. I haven't actually looked into the depth of it quite yet of like how if that resolved or didn't resolve or whatever. But I think other people might be already looking at it. But I haven't seen any Memless bugs quite yet. Knock on wood. And I do have it as an action item. I actually have a branch and a pull request, so to speak, to add like native assets for Memless. That's something that Kenton was actually asking me for a couple weeks ago. Um, I don't know if that's going to get into 3.15 or not, maybe 3.16, but um, but yeah, I haven't seen any issues. It's been quite smooth in that regard.
Excellent. Perfect. Kent,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not Kenting. With the Coke, you have your hand up. What do you got?
Chad, you said we had a memoless swap from the sex. Was it known pre-hand? And if so, can't we just not allow the swap? Say like, hey, you're executing from it centralized exchange, and that's not recommended or not allowed to do.
It's a bit hard to do that because you don't necessarily know which addresses are owned by sexes and which are not. Sometimes you do, depending on the sex, but we generally don't hard code addresses to be mark them as like sexes or not. I think in this particular case, because of something about and again I haven't looked into the depth of it, I just kind of glanced at it. Something about the way that the sex had signed the transaction just made it really confusing for Bifrost to pick up for some reason. I don't know why. I haven't looked at it quite yet, but I think that's part of it. And then also, like, if you do a swap and the swap, fails because it doesn't get the price execution that it wants, and it tries to do a refund, it's going to send the funds back to the sex. And I don't, who the hell knows how the sex would handle that in that scenario? Like, would it, take the funds and reaccredit it back to your account on whatever sex this is, or would it just like go into this abyss within the sex's wallets, and then you have to go through like customer support to try to like unwind whatever the hell happened. So I don't know of a way that we can like stop people from doing that, either swapping from a sex or swapping to a sex. Neither one are supported. And we, publicly tell people to avoid such a thing because it just adds a layer of complexity where things can go wrong. And if things do go wrong, then like there's really not much that we can do potentially to help you get your funds back. So it's just safer just to operate from your own wallet.
I understand. I thought it was maybe like we already knew pre-hand it was sex, but if you just discard afterwards, understood. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but even if we knew it was a sex it was coming from, then it becomes like, well, what does that change? Like, okay, are we going to reject the funds coming to us? Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that we can't?
Maybe just display a user that, hey, you're doing the swap from centralized
Oh,
exchange,
yeah, you could do it on the
this and
front
that.
end side,
Yeah.
in theory, you could the UI could do that.
Ah, I see. There's so many ways to do it from code base, and okay, I got it.
Or maybe that's just the way to do it within the Unstoppable wallet.
At least
Like
front end, we should
the front end,
display.
the front end can display like if you're doing a memo list,
Yeah.
like don't send directly from a sex or send to a sex. Make sure you own the wallets that you're sending to and from. Otherwise, it could cause compatibility issues that could lead to loss of funds.
I mean, my idea was that since the SDO has the known blacklist addresses, we should have like unknown sex addresses as well. And if somebody tries to do memoless, we just can display the message, "Hey, buddy, there, don't do
Right,
that."
but that assumes that sex addresses are static, which they're probably not. Like, if, for example, like on Kraken, if you were to deposit funds into Kraken, they have a unique address per user, per client, right? So then the number of wallets that sexes have is like hundreds of thousands, right? Millions maybe.
No, I don't understand. Same with blacklist addresses. We have a static address every day, and it gets updated every now and then. And we do our best. And same with the memoless. We just do our best.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. I don't know if blacklists are different because that is generated from like on-chain analysis typically. Like if hack funds going from one wallet to another wallet and blacklist all these addresses. This is different because you wouldn't even know if an address was a sex or not because you'd be Kraken or whomever would just generate a brand new address that didn't exist a moment ago and then send funds from it, or send funds to it more accurately.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, very difficult thing. I think the bottom line, guys, just take your sex when you're on a sex, put it in a wallet first, and then do what you got to do.
Yeah, make sure
Don't go
you
from
own
there.
like the whole, as much as you can. Otherwise, you're leaving an opportunity for something else in the pipeline to kind of like go awry, and then you just don't want to deal with that if it goes awry. Even like even within
100%.
THORChain, like we've actually made a handful of like code changes to make THORChain more resilient to fuckery, right? Like we had a situation recently where somebody swapped to some wallet on, I think it was XRP, and there's some sort of, I don't know a lot about XRP to be honest with you, but there's some sort of like label or tag you can apply to a wallet within the chain that makes it like, for whatever reasons, not receive funds. I don't know why. That's just the behavior that we saw. And so the protocol is trying to sign and broadcast an XRP to somebody's wallet, but like XRP itself was like saying fuck off, you know? And so we've made a change where like um, where we try to send your funds, a bunch of times, and if it's not able to do it on its own, then it does a reverse swap where it takes the XRP tokens, like swaps it back to the original source asset. Like let's just say it's Bitcoin, for example, and then sends the Bitcoin back to your wallet. You'll pay extra fees in that scenario for obvious reasons, but at least you get your funds back. You know, otherwise it would have required like some devs to manually go through, and you got to go to Discord, you got to find a dev, you got to talk to that dev, you got to give them your information, and we got to go look at the chain, we got to figure out what's going on, and do the bug patch, then do a migration, the transaction. Like it takes like weeks, if not months, to like for us to be able to like go through a manual process to recover people's funds when they do something silly like sending funds to a sex or to a wallet that won't even accept the funds to begin with. And it's a huge kind of like time suck for us in some ways. So we've recently added a handful of kind of autonomous processes that that determine when funds get stuck and then figures out a way to kind of return the funds when possible.
Yeah, it's a novel solution though, given the constraints of that particular situation. Okay, so I think I got my questions all answered. That some were previously answered by you and Kenton. Chad, do you have anything else that you want to discuss, or maybe Kenton's got something?
No, not really. I think that's more or less it for me.
Nice, nice, nice. Kenton, do you have anything additional you want to,
Actually, I do, but Coke has his hand up. Maybe we should. Does he want to say
or
something?
I do not.
oh, it's
No.
frozen up. Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, maybe. I think we could talk about DEX segregation on the front end, which seems to be a bit controversial. And yeah, maybe let's walk people through my thinking, my reasoning, why I
Can
think
I
it's
ask
important.
one thing to Chad first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Chad, just wondering how DKLS is looking. Not sure if you're working on it or anything, but with Ruji lending going out, just curious how that's going because we probably need it to shift to optimize security. I don't know how any of it's looking, so just curious.
Yeah, DKLS. There's not a lot going on in this moment. We're really just kind of waiting for one of the DKLS kind of like library or packages, what do you want to call it, that will support what's called identifiable aborts, which, from my understanding, DKLS does not, in its original design, doesn't really support identifiable aborts. And for people who don't know, identifiable aborts just means that when you're a group of entities are collectively signing some sort of transaction, and then one of them just kind of like fucks off and doesn't, and like screws up the entire key signing process and just kind of goes away or refuses to participate in the rest of the process, or whatever happens. You can figure out who was the person out of this group of people, who was the person that that disappeared for whatever reasons, and then you can slash that person, or like put them in THORChain jail so they don't participate in other further key signs in the future, or whatever, right? Um, the problem is that I don't think the original mathematical cryptographic like kind of implementation supported identifiable boards in the first version. I think DKLS 23 might support it, but I think part of the issue is that a lot of the people that are using DKLS, like Coinbase, for example, like I was talking to the head of cryptography over at Coinbase recently, and he was saying that like they don't really support identified aborts in their kind of implementation, and it makes sense that they don't, because for their case, like they don't really care who screwed up the key signing process, because they run all the servers, right? They're not a decentralized organization, so they don't really need that kind of feature. So it's not really high priority from their perspective to be spending resources to support a feature that they probably wouldn't even use themselves. So that becomes kind of part of the thing, but um, we're just kind of in like a kind of holding pattern until one of these libraries updates to support identifiable aborts. Or conversely, like, and we talked about this idea, like JP and I and others, about like just like, you know what, forget about identifiable aborts. Like if somebody wants to be a dick and, you know, and screw up the key signing, then we can deal with that in another kind of way or find another solution for that scenario. But we've kind of gone back and forth on this a few times. And in the current moment, we're still just waiting for somebody to add that particular feature so that we can throw it in. But by the way, DKLS and like loans for Ruji, completely separate things. One does not require the other. You know, there's no relationship there.
No, but it's we need optimistic security or at least enough room to raise the cap, because um there's no if there's no exit liquidity for the guy, or if the cap is at its limit and he has to provide more liquidity for his loan to prevent getting liquidated, that's my concern there. I know
Yeah,
they're totally separate, but yeah.
that's fair. And that's a fair comment. Yeah, in that scenario, we're probably more likely just to do another kind of node vote to increase the kind of security cap or whatever. If we had DKLS, in theory, possibly we could actually move from, you know, a 6 Asgard kind of setup to a single Asgard setup. That might be possible. I'm not 100% certain on that. We have to like do some benchmarking to see if it's even, you know, reasonable. I believe that it is, but I'm not 100% certain that it is. And
It's
in that
just so
scenario,
funny because,
yeah, go.
well, when you implemented THORChain for the first time, you were waiting on um, TSS, right? Now we're waiting on DKLS. It's just kind of a throwback to the original development.
Right. Before THORChain even started, the first version of THORChain that I wasn't even involved with, I wasn't even involved in the project at that time. TSS didn't exist yet, and so like it's one of the reasons why it didn't work. It kind of crashed and burned in its first attempt to exist in this world. And then TSS came out. GG18 came out like I think it was a year later, and that's when I had joined the project with JP, and we kind of co-founded it together to build out this new version that had those Cosmos. It was a Cosmos SDK before. It was not a Cosmos SDK because Cosmos SDK didn't exist at that time. But the Cosmos SDK first like was barely launched. I don't think there was documentation out at that time, or it was very little documentation. TSS didn't exist until that moment. So that we have to wait for. I'm not a cryptographer myself. I'm not a mathematician. I respect them, but that's not what I do professionally. So we have to wait for people who are, you know, experts in these fields to help us to achieve some of these goals.
Damn, that was a throwback, WB. Thanks. You know, you've been around for a while. Okay, you're all
THORChain's
good.
the best.
Yeah, that's right, buddy. All right. I think we got that handled now. I think maybe now we'll kick it to Kenton about the DEX aggregation conversation. Go ahead, Kenton.
Yeah, sure. So I think that raised some eyebrows, and some people are still confused or don't agree. So I figured maybe we should go over it. But I guess the gist is, when you go to the store and they have all the products you want to buy, does that make you happy or mad? And if you go to the store and they don't have all the products you want to buy, does that make you happy or sad? Right. And so the answer is obvious, right? You're happy when they have all the products you want, right? If they don't have all the products you want, you got to get in your car and go somewhere else to go buy them. You're like, God damn it, I got to go somewhere else, right? So the STO is a store, right? We're it's a storefront, and we're selling THORChain products. But unfortunately, THORChain doesn't carry all the products that the user wants, and so in my mind, it's a no brainer. Just offer them the other products they want through a different DEX, through DEX segregation. And I am not talking about best execution on price. Every trade that can go on THORChain goes to THORChain, right? THORChain is a priority. If THORChain doesn't have that token, then it looks to Maya at the token trade. Oh, let me first say the token trades on THORChain is 0 fee. Then if it's on a THORChain, looks to Maya, if the token trades there, then it goes there, 0 fee. Then after that, it looks at all the other dexes and then charges a fee. And so I view it as win-win. The user gets what they want. They get to stay at the same store, buy all the products they want. They don't have to go anywhere else. That user is now more sticky because he's like, this is great. I can get all my shopping in one place. And then we make some money. And by we, right now it's the treasury and the devs, unstoppable devs. And this is a way to pay the devs like with, not out of pocket, right? The treasury is out of pocket. The protocol is out of pocket. The user is paying, right? And so, so I actually think it's win-win-win that everybody's happy. And and so obviously, and so right now, one of those other dexes to look for other tokens is near. And I know that's contentious and might, maybe get people riled up, but and people say, well, you're just supporting our competition and this and that. And it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, as long as the user's on our site, they're using THORChain, right? And so, I mean, all kinds of businesses in the world do this. Like the biggest businesses in the world do this all the time, right? They're not always selling only their products, right? They'll often sell third-party products. It's not crazy. And so, we want to capture the whole user experience. We want them staying on our site. We don't want them to ever leave to go to a different site. And then what will happen over time is as we add new chains, in theory, we already have an audience. We're going to have instant volume because people are already on our site trading these tokens through the other dexes. And so when it goes live on THORChain and then the THORChain route is prioritized, then boom, we have instant users, right? How often does this happen, you guys? When we launch a pool, everyone's like, well, where are the users? Where's the volume? It's like, well, like, we got to tell people about it, right? And so this is kind of a way to prime our own user base and that, they get used to trading these tokens on our site, that when we introduce the pool, we should have some instant volume there. So that's the overall broad idea of the aggregator. And then also to be able to use that, this is what we want to sell to other wallets, so we want to offer wallets, the aggregator, basically the exact same way we have it set up on our site. All the routes go through THORChain for free. All the routes go through Maya is free. And then if they go anywhere else, we charge a fee. And because that's what helps pay the support of the aggregator. We got to pay devs, right? People have to support this, right? And well, and and the treasury gets their share too. So but when you go to the wallets, like it's not enough just to offer them a free THORChain integration, right? Like they want the whole package, right? And again, there's just countless examples of this in meat space where a company will, a big brand will own its own distribution and also distribute their competitors' products because they know the end user, the clients, they want the whole catalog, right? They want everything. And so and again with the wallet, we do this. We just slowly keep adding the THORChain routes, and we just keep, that wallet is used to using, they're getting all their tokens, but then just slowly over time, we're turning off the DEX aggregation and just routing stuff to THORChain. So we have that audience already in place. So I think is very elegant. But I'm definitely, I promise you guys, I don't want to just be like, I'm confident I'm right, but this is the community site, right? This is what everyone has to get behind and believe in and sell, right? So if I want to be open to criticism. You guys don't think this is a good idea or whatever, because I have had people reach out thinking this is not good. So I think we should talk about it. So I don't know if you guys, Paige or Chad, if you have any comments or anybody else.
Well, I'm in many groups, as I said, and overwhelmingly, again, I know I'm speaking from authority because I'm just telling you that I am, and I could be making it up, but I gotta just say it. I mean, overwhelmingly, people are supportive of the idea. because a really great argument used in a previous space as well, Kenton, is that if we support other routes, then that's analytics that you can capture that also maybe gives priority to Chad or other devs of what change would you add next, or maybe analytics of maybe intents really flies off, is really awesome, and you're going to get information, and then that information is actually worth something. So you said it's a win-win-win. I might disagree. I think it might be a win-win-win-win, right? There's 4 wins there, right? So to me, from what I see, I think it's good. But with Coke, you put your hand up. What do you got?
Well, can I want to respond to you first, Patriot?
Yeah.
You're right. We're actually, the user is paying us to tell us what he wants.
Right.
Like, how can you can't ask for a better situation, right? Companies spend millions of dollars to try and figure out what their customers want. And in this case, the user is actually paying us. And some people have criticized me, like, well, you just got to go look at the volume on Near and whatever. Those are different interfaces. Those aren't our users, right? We want to know what the users on STO are doing, right? Maybe they have different appetites for different tokens, right? That are so we think, oh, this one token is going to be sending all this volume on another platform. We should do it first so we get that volume. But in reality, none of our users are actually trading it. They're trading token B, and which has little volume on a different platform, right? So that that information is valuable.
Yeah, by the
Yeah,
way,
I
like
agree with.
I was gonna say, like, I'm just looking at the Near Intense dashboard right now, just out of curiosity, and like, um, the what percentage of their trade volume is a token that we don't support is extremely small. Like, the only one that we don't the only two that like has anything of value is Solana and Zcash, which are 2 chains we're planning to add in the nearest future. So once those 2 are added to THORChain, and obviously the STO swap would swap with us first before them, your only remaining is like 98% of the volume would be going to THORChain, and like a small 2%. It's very, very, very tiny, and it's going to be like, as time goes on and we add more chains and blah blah blah, like it's just going to have even less and less and less volume goes to Near. To be honest with you, so I was kind of against adding Near support personally initially, largely because I just didn't think it was worth the engineering time and complexity, and I've always kind of envisioned this kind of UI to be as super simple and dumb as possible, just so that it doesn't require a lot of like dev maintenance or long build times and like that kind of thing, and easy to test, easy to verify, easy. But in hindsight, after hearing the arguments that Kenton has made and whatnot, I kind of come over to his side, his view on this, to be honest. But I think, like, again, like probably like 4 to 6 months from now, it'll be kind of a moot discussion, just because so few volume would be passing through Near. It wouldn't really matter.
Okay, so now here's the next one, which could be, I admit, could be controversial. What about when trading is halted on THORChain, and then say maybe that route, maybe it's halted on THORChain and Maya, and then that route goes to
Yeah, I would still
Near.
send it to Near in that scenario.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
facilitate
cool.
the swap.
Yeah,
give the customer what they want.
Exactly. That's why I'm looking at it too, right? And I think it's like choosing the least, which is the what am I trying to say? The least worst scenario, right? Oh, you can't trade on our site and you have to go somewhere else, or oops, embarrassing us. You can't do Bitcoin on our site. We got to send you through Near. I
Yeah,
think that second one is like less embarrassing than the first one.
right.
Agree. Yes, sir.
Kenton, honestly, where Maya is its own separate set of rails, and this is one of the beautiful kind of bonuses of having them, is the odds of both of them being down simultaneously are pretty small. So that, I imagine, that would happen like once in some weird black swan. Just wanted to chime in on that.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're
right. I was
rarely
actually
down,
thinking
and
the
so
same
is
thing.
Maya. So it would be very weird that we were both down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, with the Coke, I think go ahead.
Yeah, I totally do agree with Kenton. For as long as we don't send people off our site, like when it comes to near swap, and we just do it silently, I don't see any like issue with that. We just do it, and the user doesn't know. Same with SwapKit, they don't know who they swap through. But I didn't understand Chad's argument. Like we have like a few Zcash and Solana going through near,
Mhm.
but it's only 20% of near volume.
Yes.
Other like is ETH and Bitcoin 80%. So I didn't kind of catch that
Yeah, I
one.
think looking at the site, it's about 10% of the volume that Near has right now is between Zcash and Solana. Beyond that, if you kind of skip those and you go further down the kind of the road there, you have like XRP, BNB, W Near, which we don't really care that much about that one. DAI, Doge, WBTC, TRX, Litecoin. We support almost all of these tokens, even these very kind of long, relatively speaking, long tail that are like a sliver of volume. Like their Litecoin volume, for example, if I could bring it in here. So in the last 24 hours is about $215,000, which is obviously like a very, very small sliver of I'm not sure how much volume they've had in the last 24 hours. It was at 78 million. So you're talking about half a percent or whatever the hell that number would be. So it's just not significant enough to be worrisome. And I think like as we add more and more change, it's going to just get less and less, like I said. So it doesn't really matter in the long term.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
Zcash,
understand. I understand what you're saying, but so Zcash is 10%. Let's say Zcash and Sol yesterday it was 10%. It
Yeah,
was 10 million,
yeah.
but at the same time, ETH, USDC, Bitcoin was 80 million. So how do we attack that volume vector?
Well, we get them automatically through the as Kenton was saying that like we prioritize THORChain over Near. We only use Near when we just don't support the route,
right, right. We're
the pair.
right.
Okay, I see. Okay, I see you. You're looking from the STO perspective. I was looking from
Well,
the
that's marketing.
competitive
That's marketing,
side by
right?
side.
That's marketing. That's what we're going to do. I mean, marketing hasn't even started yet, and we've already had tremendous volume. And with the fees that we are getting, the marketing budget is getting deeper, right? Which is great. We have a healthy stream of income to the marketing budget. So, Kenton, he's flexing, right? He's pumping. He's doing push-ups. He's doing crunches. He's getting his plan. He said, "What is it, Kenton? February next year? Maybe keep some eye out for some things." So let's hold on to our butts here. I think let's give this man some room to flex his muscles. Let's go for it. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, I'm looking at a different dashboard right now about the swap volume. I'm looking at swap volume relative to like Thor names, like Thor Swap, Thor Wallet, Asgard X, Swap Kit, Trust Wallet, whatever, Rango. Right now, the THORChain Swap UI has 79.1. This is just, I'm looking at yesterday, December 3rd. Has 79.1% of the total volume of our affiliate volume. The second one is SwapKit with 8%, a little over 8%. So the UI that Kenton has made has already is doing basically 80% of the volume on the entire protocol is just from that UI. And that should be a really good indicator of like whenever you launch a new feature or product or whatever, and there's like really significant adoption and especially in a short period of time, that tells you that whatever analysis you were making was accurate and that you've done something that the community or the world has like
Can,
reacted positively to.
100%.
can I be a little bit downer? I mean, if you wanna boo me out, I will not address it.
No, go ahead.
No,
But
no, with no censorship.
yeah. So at last 3 days, yes, we have been lucky. We have had a lot of big swaps coming through us from STO. But I think today it was a good example where like a lot of aggregators, we didn't get a lot of volume, we didn't get any big swaps. The market was going sideways, and we only, I think, we are at the moment about 15 million in swaps, and near most likely still hitting like 100 million. We are only at the moment kind of competing when it comes to high swaps. but Near gets from that aggregators all those small nibbles, and it kind
Mhm.
of adds up. So is there a way to attack that market? I know there's subsidized gas and stuff, and I know we have gone through this topic last months,
Yeah,
but is
the
there a
the
way?
so I'm gonna ignore the whole subsidization thing because I that cannot be a sustainable model. So eventually they're gonna stop at some point if they haven't already. The other way we can, if we don't, we could become cheaper in price if we really wanted to. It's because of the mathematics that I literally had to create new mathematical equations for this. But because of like these equations that I came up with a couple of years ago, in streaming swaps, we can arbitrarily charge whatever fee basis points we want. It can be 5 basis points, 1 basis point, 100 basis points, arguably. Like it's an arbitrary number. So we could be more competitive, right, if we wanted to, in terms of like getting those people. But then you also get like less fees collected, right? And we also want to collect fees because we want there to be good yield for the node operators and the LPs and blah 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 whatever. The other way we can be competitive and kind of get more volume, specifically like sniping some volume from SwapKit, sending to Near versus us, is just be getting more competitive on time. And they look at not just price execution, but they also look at like how fast swaps are. And for Near, like all of their swaps, doesn't matter if it's like a small trade or a big trade, it's 26 minutes to do a trade on the Near protocol, which is fairly long to be honest with you, especially for small trades. And so, there's a couple of things that I'm looking to change in the protocol to make it more efficient and more competitive. So, in terms of like time, and if we can get like our swap time to be a lot faster, one of those things is like probably the biggest thing is probably gonna be rapid swaps once that gets going. As soon as we implement rapid swaps and even set it to a configuration of 2, which is obviously very small, you basically divide the amount of blocks needed to do the swap by whatever this value is. In our case, it's 2. So you just have the time it takes to do the swap. You put it at 5, it's 1/5. You put it at 10, it's like 1/10, so forth and so on. There's also like the zero conf thing I've been thinking about, where you can send in some Bitcoin. It's like, the 10-minute block time, so it takes a while for us to even get like one conf. But what we can do is that we can see the incoming Bitcoin coming in, in the mempool, and then execute the swap before we even receive the Bitcoin, and then hold on to the output. So if you're swapping from Bitcoin to Ether, for example, we would swap it to Ether, and then just hold on to that Ether, and then as soon as we get like one conf, we would just release the Ether to you, so that this time it takes to do the streaming swap, the time it does the delayed outbound, all that stuff is already done before you even get this first confirmation on the Bitcoin blockchain. And by the way, you also get better kind of price execution potentially, because if you try to do a swap or a trade and then you have to delay it 10 minutes before your trade actually executes, what happens to the price of the assets you're trading in that 10-minute time period versus if you do it immediately? You kind of get a better kind of UX because of that. So that's something I've been considering of doing. I'm not 100% sold on it quite yet. I want to have a deeper conversation with JP, and anybody who wants to argue with me on this, that you're welcome to. But that's the other way that I want to compete with Near, specifically kind of sniping some of their volume on SwapKit, is by just getting our trade execution be a lot faster.
Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about as well. Why can't we like have those like mini swaps to upfront, like just you described, and as soon as somebody cheats us, we just delay the outbound and we go back to the what we used to.
Mhm.
And same with Monero, the talk that we had yesterday, not yesterday, last week. Like it runs through centralized exchange, and at the moment they haven't stopped any swap, right? But why can't we just do this in a way that as long as it's 10K, we guarantee that any swap that goes through, even if it gets stopped or seized, we will just imperse the user. And meanwhile, when it doesn't happen, and as I understand through control wallet in years, it hasn't happened.
Mhm.
It's no like issue. Like, but as soon as it happens, we stop it. We stop the policy that we impers. We impers one user that got seized, and we go back. And same with the small swaps. As long as nobody cheats us, we are really competitive. We make the swaps upfront with some of the cheats. We tighten up with the security. We say, okay, we have to wait 10 minutes, no more, no longer this upfront stuff. And same with Monero, like we set a limit that Treasury is willing to take the hit, 10K, and as long as you stay under 10K, no issues there. You will have a guaranteed swap.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
All right, there you go. Perfect. So yeah, Kenton, I think your one question about should we DEX aggregate in the event that THORChain is down on STO? I think absolutely. I think your same logic applies, right? You give the customer what they want. You don't want them to leave. That is the worst thing I think that could happen. Having a customer leave to go elsewhere because we cannot facilitate it one way or the other. So, yep, I think that's right.
All right. Well, cool. Thanks. All right, then I'm on the right track. You guys agree.
I agree.
Okay, I want to throw another thing at you guys. What about adding a centralized exchange that supports Monero? And I know I've spoken really poorly about wallets that integrate Changely and Change Now because they freeze trades on some of their users and lock it up for like sometimes months and demand all this KYC. Apparently, there's some sexes that have never done that because they have really good wallet screening, so they prevent somehow. I don't know, prevent or they just refund the money, whatever. But we could add like a sex like Dex that supports Monero and have Monero on our site and following the same logic before, we start building that audience that wants to trade Monero so that when we go flip it live, the Monero pool on THORChain, we've already got that user base. But it's still a sex. So I'm curious. This is one where I'm not gonna die on any hill here. I've been fighting enough battles, so this is one I'm gonna kind of leave up throughout to the community. See what everybody else thinks. If we can get consensus on.
If you go centralized, I think you got to show the routes. Like right now, we're not showing any of the routes on STO or which protocols even providing the swap. But if we are using centralized, I think that the user should know.
Correct.
Absolutely. And I think we want to change that too with the current. Actually, let's stick with this subject and I'll change it later. But go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say that like I wouldn't do this personally because as soon as you bring in a sex like that, I think there's like questions about like censorability, but also like taxes. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing the trade on this sex as whatever entity that's doing this actual trade, then it becomes a question of like, does that entity owe the taxes of something or whatever? Do you know what I mean? Like, or am I being I'm not a tax CPA professional for sure, but I would be concerned about that angle.
Oh, you mean for the user?
Yeah, for the user or for you that you're the account that's actually doing the trading, right? Like if it's like Kenton's account on Coinbase, I'm just this is probably not the reality, but hypothetically, like you're doing all this trade volume on Coinbase, Kenton. It's because it's your account that's actually doing this trading, not not me who's sending you some funds through this UI or whatever. And then it becomes a question about like KYC and like tax questions and like that might be kind of like, I don't know, a little bit too not worth the risks of just adding Monero.
To be honest, I never even thought of anything like that. Like what? So this is so if I have Bitcoin and I want to trade it for Monero through, let's say we add this exchange on the THORChain STO, I might have to pay tax or, I mean, if I'm paying tax, I'm still recording all my transactions, all my buys and sells. Why does it matter where I actually bought my token from? Whether it's
I don't
tax.
I'm not a CPA and I'm not obviously trying to give tax advice, whatever, but it would give me I would at least talk to a CPA first before doing something like this because I don't know who wears the tax in that scenario. Because it's like on one hand it's like their money, but on the other hand it's your account. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know how that works.
It would
or
probably be
especially
fine with it would probably be fine with Monero, right? Because of privacy, but I'm assuming Kenton is talking about using one account for the DEX aggregation and everybody would go through that one account. But at the same time, the centralized exchange is sending out from that account to the wallet of the user. So you're identified that way as well.
yeah, I don't know. I would just be cautious. So
Chad,
When it comes to like generally when I especially like with investing and stuff, we just always ignore taxes. That's just up to the user. That's their business. They figure it out because everyone's tax situation is so completely different. Like
yeah,
WB said, if we just disclose it, hey, this is what's happening, then that's up to them. That's their responsibility
yeah.
to figure it out.
I have to agree with Kenton with taxes because like it's up to user. THORChain cannot be accountable for taxes. Same with the North Korea. They go through us. So yeah, it's I don't know. I don't see any relation. But I think what we should discuss is what is like decentralization? Is it like yes, it is a protocol, but at the same time we can have the second layer like having a service for users. And that's what I said before. Like if we guarantee for users, like if you go 10K, we guarantee that you can do the swap, and even if it gets seized, we will reimburse the user. And as soon as this seize happen, we just stop the route through the centralized exchange. So
By the way,
I think there is a
Shapeshift went through this whole process years ago because initially
oh
they were a DEX, right? And they didn't KYC their users. And the only way they could do cross-chain swaps was through sexes because DEXs didn't exist yet. And eventually, like the SEC came after Shapeshift and put them under a lot of pressure, and they end up having to add KYC to their swap interface because of it. So I don't know. I would
but
stay away from
then
sexes myself.
then THORChain will drop the route because Control Wallet has done it for years and no issues.
Yeah, even if
Bec-
so, like they might not have the volume or whatever that would get the eyes of the SEC on them or whatever. And maybe this SEC doesn't give a shit. It wouldn't even do anything because it's a Trump administration or whatever. But like I would to me it just inserts a lot of risk and a lot of unknowns and things can go awry quite quickly. All just to support Monero. I'm not sure if it's worth it in my opinion to do that.
Um,
For
it's an interesting argument that Chad's making. I actually don't know enough about the subject material to have an informed opinion on that specific case. But let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that Kenton does his due diligence, CPA, and he says it's okay to go ahead. With that concern out of the way, I would say that adding the centralized exchange, provided there is zero history of any malfeasance or freezing funds or whatever, I think it should be. I think it is acceptable to have an STO. But WB mentioned, it's also my opinion as well. There should be the biggest, fattest disclaimer. It should be scary. Like you should tell people exactly what's going on. That if it's going to a centralized third party, it's beyond our control. It should be something that's extremely visible for the person who's making the swap. So there's zero ambiguity that what is happening here. Because I do like the idea that Kenton says that we want to build a Monero audience because there's a lot of people in the audience I'm looking right now that are huge Monero people, and they probably I'm curious their opinion actually. But that's what my gut tells me. But the tax side thing, that's an interesting thing. I'm going to sidestep that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, taxes and regulation. And Kendon,
Yeah.
I can connect you with some people over at Shapeshift who literally have done the thing that you're talking about, where they have a DEX that they're wrapping around a sex, and they can tell you what their experience is, before you kind of dip a toe into this.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Uh,
The
I'm
CPA
from
thing.
Canada and Binance is banned here. So in a situation where the centralized exchange isn't even allowed to operate in the parameters of the user, I don't know how that would tie in either. It's just another thing to think about.
That's where KYC comes into place. Like I don't think it's legal for like me to do like open up a Coinbase account or whatever and then just like take money arbitrarily from any random person on the internet, and then execute trades on their behalf, and then give them the Ethereum or whatever token they're talking about, and not KYC those people. I think that might be grounds of regulatory concern.
Agreed, but it also means crypto's great that you
It
can't
does.
even do that.
That's why we build things in part as a DEX, is to, like, this is like the greatest contribution that crypto has to the world in general, is that it's, for the first time in human history, we are granted a tool, in this case it's cryptography, that allows us to protect ourselves from tyrants, protect ourselves from government. There's no other methodology that really existed prior to that, to be honest with you, not in my opinion. And so our ability to have our sovereignty, our self-sovereignty, and a lack of ability for government to fuck with individuals in this kind of way, but using cryptography and privacy and all these things, is like an absolutely incredible tool to empower people and to grant inalienable human rights to humanity, not granted by a government, but granted by mathematics. It's an amazing concept.
Here. That's what we're all. This is what we're doing, guys. This is why
That's right.
we keep going, right? This is what
And
this
that
is the mission.
I actually understand Chad's point of view. I actually understand Kenton's point of view, and actually understand the Dennis' point of view. When it comes to Chad points of view, we did not a winning way, but we did serve the North Korea, and nobody came after us. So I don't know. Having some Monero swaps, not sure if somebody is coming after us. I understand, Kenton, that we should have a lot of routes on our STO. And my idea is, of course, just let's set the limit that the Treasury is willing to refund if something gets stuck. And when it comes to Denny's idea, I would say let's not display the big display, or do not swap here, because it's going to centralized route, because it gives like the opposite signal to the user. Let's just, if something bad happens, let's just pay for this user and not display the message. But if it goes above, like, let's say 10K, then of course we say like we don't reimburse this transaction. You're on your own, of course. But in that case, but if it's like a small transaction and we're willing to take the hit, as long as nothing happens, we should just serve the user. Yeah, I see everybody's arguments.
Real quick, I just want to mention about Bybit. So when that happened, I don't know if people are aware, but there was a lot of work being done in the background to actually help people track those funds. I know Familiar Cow hacked something together, a tracker. I personally was in a Telegram with Sam Yap and others with Zach XBT, and we were identifying people in Telegram. And so the THORChain community really went out of their way to help fight against this. It wasn't, we just let it happen and, we didn't do anything about it. We saw, ultimately our ethos is permissionless, but we did everything we possibly reasonably could do to help authorities while not surrendering the most precious ethos we have at all, which is permissionlessness. So just want to say that for the record, there was a lot of work done behind the scenes.
Yes. I understand it was proactive work, but at the same time, how the THORChain is set up, we always have inbound, outbound. In a sense, we didn't have to do it, but of course, as a protocol, and we have stance that we don't condemn the illicit funds go through us. Yes, I understand that we always want to help everybody. So in a sense, we didn't like unsolve the problems that happened. We just help people.
That's a very interesting point you made there. What is the problem?
Because we didn't help anything. We
Right.
just signaled, we virtue signaled that, hey, we're helpful, kinda.
Well, here's the thing that I think there's a deeper part of that conversation is you mentioned the word problem. What is the problem, right? The problem is centralized custodians losing funds of other people, right? Which is something that this community has fixed with like JP's Voltisig, where we've actually made a whole new standard of security. And that's the argument I always push forward is THORChain is not here to help criminals. We're actually here to solve these problems, to make the whole industry better in every way imaginable. And so yeah, if people just get on board what we're doing, they take that they dip a toe, as Kenton said, then they understand that what we're building here actually is just the biggest, most powerful, emancipating tool in the existence of crypto. That yeah, I'm biased, of course, but point to the protocol that's doing more things than this, shared ecosystem. I don't think they exist.
100% understand, and I contend this as well. We are, instead of just waiting and just saying, "Hey, it's your problem," we are actually producing solutions as well, like multi-sig, and it kind of comes so like full circle. As you know, I'm catching like a pickpockets in my city as well, and the problem is not people using the backpack, and if they use it in the chest, they will save themselves. But yeah, as long, it doesn't matter how much we try to help fight, some people will still fall the victim, and yeah, that's just how it is. We cannot save everybody.
Was it
Same
a,
with memoless, and yeah, people will still send funds from the centralized exchange and etc.
was it you who were pickpocketed? Was it a good looking girl and you're trying to save her day? What was it there with the coke? I want to know.
No, I'm just running around with my
Oh, okay.
hidden camera. I'm running around with my camera.
I'll just have fun with you, buddy. Hey, good on you, brother. That's awesome. We all every single human has agency, and we can make society better. And every action. Don't be a sheep. Be a warrior. Be a man when you're out there. Okay. Kenton, I'm curious. You asked the question. Do you think there should be a disclaimer if we go to the centralized exchange? How do you feel about that?
Oh, definitely, of course. Um, yeah, 100%. I was gonna say, Patriot, I'm not gonna talk to the CPA. Like that's, guys, it's impossible. Everyone's tax situation is clearly different. Um, um, yeah, but I think we want to change the site so it does tell you like where the trade's going, whether it's Maya or Near or anywhere else. And so if everybody was on board with the centralized exchange, we would definitely say that, and we would definitely have a warning that this is happening. Um, Chad, you mentioned with Shapeshift, that isn't the issue with Shapeshift, they were settling the trades themselves. That it wasn't that they were providing the route, is they were actually providing settlement. That's why
Yeah,
they
but
had,
wouldn't you
yeah.
be doing that in a sex situation?
No, we're just like a broker. We're connecting the user to the sex. And so the sex might have to do KYC for whatever reason. This is
Oh,
the problem, right? Like we wouldn't, THORChain wouldn't. We
oh,
what
okay.
what
Maybe
what we
maybe I
would is
misunderstand what you had in mind.
so
Um,
well, you
I
know how
thought
Changelly and Change Now work?
vaguely, yes.
I mean, you can go on Ledger and you can place a trade right on Change Now, and
Mhm.
it's all no KYC. But then every few months, somebody's trade gets frozen, and Change Now actually asks for KYC, and because it comes from a weird address or whatever, and they freeze the trade because Change Now is technically centralized. And
Mhm.
so the reason they don't ask for KYC on any other routes is 'cause they do their own wallet screening or whatever to ensure it's all legit. But if they get a trade from like a suspect address, then they're forced to freeze it and look into it.
Mhm.
Um, but this is on Ledger, right? I think Trust Wallet even uses them.
Okay. All right.
But apparently there's other players like that that have never frozen a trade ever in their history. And this one called Let's Exchange is one of them, and they offer Monero. And I don't know, they're probably out of Seychelles or Bolivia. I don't, who knows where they're based, right? Somewhere where they don't need to do KYC. And so the risk for Thorchain is that somebody does a trade and that sex freezes their funds, and then the user's like, Thorchain, what the heck? We thought this was decentralized, permissionless, no KYC, and now my money is stuck and I have to provide KYC. That's our risk. That it could be real. That could burn us, right? It'd look really bad. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I'm a if you can do it in a way that is, doesn't create any risk for you or for Unstoppable Wallet or whatever, then I'm okay with it personally.
Likewise.
Yeah, the main risk is just we get one trade gets screwed, and maybe it's uh I know nothing is perfect, right? But like it's just
Mhm.
I'm just sensitive to that, right? And so anyway,
Sure.
I think it's just a conversation we should all keep having. I'm not going to push it. If we have majority support, the committee wants to do it, then fine, let's go for it. If
Hey,
if we're 50-50, then maybe we shouldn't.
I don't know anything about the centralized exchange, but can they get on a space? Do you think they do that? Are they on X? You can chat with them.
Patriot, that is a brilliant idea. I will find out. Excellent idea.
There you go. Boom. Ask them all the questions. Well, gosh dang it, you guys! I have exceeded my questions, so thank you everyone for giving me questions and DMs. You guys already took care of them. WBS, you unmuted yourself. Do you have something else?
Yeah, I just had a question for Chad again. I don't know if you're aware of the problem, but Rune Bond, the actually be ruined, the feature Ruger is working on, where you can anybody can bond their ruins for the feature they're working on, but they had a problem where the payouts can't happen until the node churns out. And I just think it's a huge feature, and once it goes, Ruin is going to take off big, but I don't see it talked about much.
Yeah. So if I understand you correctly, what you're asking is that like, can I get my rune rewards um, from my node without my node like churning out of the network? I think that's what you're more or less stating. Um,
Yes, but the person working on B Ruin posted that in Discord, and that was the last I heard of it.
yeah, I mean it's theoretically possible. It's nothing that Ruji can do. I don't think. I think it has to be done on the base layer probably. Although I haven't obviously spent that much time thinking about it. Um, the thing we have to historically we would have been concerned about, like you don't want to be a node. I'm going extreme here, just to be illustrative. You don't want to be a node that's churned to the network and then unbond all your rune, and then your node's still in the network as an active node, but it has no rune associated with it. Like that's obviously a ridiculous situation you would be in, because otherwise there's no security anymore. Like you could just remove all the security of the protocol and there's nothing securing anything. That would not be a good thing for obvious reasons. Um, but that said, I would be open to the idea that like the principal would have to stay in the protocol until you churn out, but the interest could be churned out. Like we'd have to make some kind of code changes to track, how much is principal and how much is, interest rate or yield. And then you could say like, oh, I want to unbond my yield, right? And then it could allow that, as long as it's not like too much, or maybe we had to limit, like you can only unbond, like I'm just spitballing here, but you can only unbond, 1% per day, just so that people don't like you don't have too much extracted all at once, and all of a sudden the security kind of like gets lopsided or something like this. I just spent some time thinking about it, but I'm open to that. I don't think it would be a bad idea necessarily. I don't know if that's like if it would create the avalanche that you kind of insinuated with your B rune kind of reference. Maybe it would. I don't know, but I'm open to exploring the idea.
I'm
Chad,
optimistic, but sorry, go
sorry,
Kenton.
you got WB. Sorry, buddy.
Well, just like I know Ruin Bond's out there, in my opinion, like I'm waiting to bond my Ruin. I haven't gone through Ruin Bond yet. I could have, it just seems like too many steps to be easy enough for a mass audience to use. And if B Ruin was a thing and anybody at any point could bond their Ruin, I think it would take off, but I am pretty optimistic on it.
Since you mentioned
Yeah,
Rune, oh,
I think that would be problematic. I think in some ways, because the problem that I would have with that is that like if anybody could bond their rune at any time like that, just arbitrarily, whatever amounts, whatever, then the yield that the bond makes, like nodes, you know, in theory wouldn't like that, because it just means that they would get a lot less yield, right? Because you're providing a lot more room to the protocol, which is adding more security in a sense. but it's being divvied up between more hands or more wallets, whatever, and then you just get kind of like a reduction in yield generation. So there's a little bit of a push and a pull to that scenario. Not to say that that's not a good idea or we shouldn't do it necessarily, but just there's the other side of the coin of, if I was a node operator right now, I might be hesitant to accept that feature because I want my rune to give me as much highest rewards as possible, to speak selfishly for a moment, rather than just having like it be diluted by a fuck ton.
That's
Agreed,
my yeah. Go ahead, WB.
but that it's removing a lot of buy pressure that would be caused by the people who would want to add more stake, even though it's reducing the yield of the people who are already staked. I get it, but I think that the price will go up higher than the yield and it will offset the drop in yield.
I don't know about that because it's like I think a lot of people, like for you, for you as an example, like you're not. I don't know. I don't know what you're doing, but like I'm gonna make an assumption here. Like you're not selling your rune right now, right? You haven't sold your rune in the last whatever weeks or months, whatever. You're just kind of having it sit in cold storage probably, and you're just waiting for the opportunity to bond it via like B rune or whatever. And so like it doesn't really create any sell pressure necessarily. It just sits in cold storage. So how much of the rune we would get, what percentage of that rune we would get is like this cold storage just now becoming part of the bond versus would have sold but is not selling because now that's in the network as a yield, blah blah blah. And I don't know like if getting a yield or not getting a yield, like how significant that would really kind of stop people from selling. Do you know what I mean?
Fair, totally fair. Yeah, I don't plan on selling it even if the feature doesn't come. So fair point.
Well, that's true. Maybe you're like, this is obviously a reductive argument because we're just talking about you and your personal opinion and your personal experience. But thinking more on the kind of macro scale within the community, like how many rune do we see sold per day because they just got a little bit bearish on the asset, or they needed to sell it because they needed to buy dentures for their grandmother or what the fuck it is, and they wouldn't have sold if they were getting a 8% yield on that rune or whatever is typical for the protocol. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to.
If we do implement B Rune, we're pretty much going proof of stake at that point. Because like if we go no economic security, anybody can bond their ruin. It's pretty much stake at that point.
Right, and that becomes a problem because, well, not less so in our case. Usually, proof of stake is a problem because you're minting tokens to pay out the rewards, and if you have a proof of stake network and 100% of your token is staked in the network, and everybody's earning a 5% interest, right, because of this, the minting of new tokens. In reality, nobody's making any interest, right? So it's like the more of a higher percentage of people that are bonded or like staking in a proof of stake network, the less reward you're actually getting. You're getting numbers like, oh, you're getting a 5% increase. The reality is, no, you're getting the same amount you had before. You're getting a 5% increase, but you're also getting diluted at the same time. So your dilution and your increase are equal to each other if 100% of the token is staked into the protocol. If 98% is staked into this proof of stake network, then you have like a 5% increase, but a dilution of 4.8% or something like this. I'm not giving accurate numbers, but just to kind of paint the picture, like you believe you're getting a 5% interest rate, but the reality is you're getting 0.2, and you just haven't figured out the math that you're not getting what you think you're getting. Do you know what I mean?
Inflation's a bitch.
Inflation's a bitch in a sense. Like obviously in our case, it's a little bit different because we don't really have inflation anymore, right? So in this hypothetical scenario where 100% of the rune was bonded into the network, you would actually get a real interest, whatever, let's call it, 2%. Because if it's everybody's bonded to a year, it's either divvy up the, whatever $1 million per month or quarter or you're getting, and then divide that by the number of hands that, or so to speak, that are each getting it, or number of tokens, and it just becomes such a very small number because the fees that we're generating as a protocol is not big enough to like give the entire Thor chain community, everybody to get like 10% yield like that. We just don't make that much money, right? So then everybody just gets like a 1% yield or a 2% or whatever the number would actually be, and that that kind of like takes away from the experience, I guess.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing because it's like to preserve yield, you're denying security, if you get what I mean.
Yes. So like this is where we've changed our kind of stance, or at least I've changed my stance, I should say, is that like I've always held historically like a very strong opinion about a strict security perspective.
Did I
Chad, we
run?
lost you.
Maybe he has a phone call.
Chad, another phone call.
Sorry, I got another phone. Got another phone
Go ahead,
call.
Chad. We hear you.
Apologies for that. In the past, we wanted more security because then we could have deeper pools, right? And then we can have more volume because we have deeper pools. Like there's like a conga line that happens when you have more security, where you have more security, you have more space for more deeper pools. The deeper the pools, the more volume, the more volume, the more fees, the more fees. Like it all kind of works that way. But in our kind of newer kind of stances, we have a less of a strict opinion on security. Having more security now, like how much does it really benefit the protocol to have 2 million more rune in security? Are we going to see more deeper pools? Probably not. Are we going to see a lot more volume? Probably not. So like, what is the actual value to getting even 30 million more rune to the protocol? Like, how does that benefit, the protocol in terms of its main KPIs? I'm not sure it does, other than the scenario where you have, the loan system of Ruji blow up and getting tons of interest and tons of volume. And that's when it starts to matter in that particular instance. But until then, I'm not sure how much value it provides.
Okay. So I'm trying to formulate my thoughts here. So the way I figure it is like, because Chad's totally right. Like we've changed our posture on the security posture of THORChain. So the way I figure it is like the decentralized nature of THORChain is the best defense, and just how uncensorable. So when Rugira really takes off, let's say STO is just absolutely crushing it. We've got billions in swap volume. There's so much money being slung around. Everyone is just so happy and euphoric. We're going to try, you guys. I'm literally looking forward to that day. To me, that's when you really just switch gears and you just go to adding more nodes and increasing the decentralization of the network. Whether that's DKLS, I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns there. But I have a real quick question about B Rune. I want to just double check because it's something I had a conversation with months ago, and I'm making sure I don't remember it correct. So how it works: you have your rune, goes into a smart contract. That contract, then it's air quotes bonded, right? And let's say you have like millions of rune that's bonded via B Rune. How's it work? Every churn, like there's a percentage that can be withdrawn, but you can't just have a mass exodus of B Rune from everybody, right? Is that my understanding correct?
Yeah, but you
I don't
still
know.
had to wait until the node turned out to get
Right. Yeah.
anything.
Okay. Okay. I heard you say something and I wasn't sure if I heard it correct. So yeah, it's still contingent. There's still friction. It's easier to enter from a UI perspective. And RuneBond's going to be adding B Rune, like that's the depth's intention immediately. But there's still that friction to leave. And to me, okay, yes, that's all. That's all I wanted to clarify.
Can I add my 2 cents on B Rune?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan because especially with the security cap being relaxed, it's more important than ever for the bond provider to have a relationship with the node operator. And B Rune just divorces that relationship even further. So if we remove the hard cap altogether, the only thing really keeping this together is node operators, being good, doing good to their bond providers. And the only way you can do good to someone is if you know them, right? If you don't know them, you don't care about them, right? And then directly for the node operator, the higher his yield, the better, right? He making more money, less chance he wants to do anything malicious. So
That's kind of the point of DKLS though, to increase security so nobody has the chance to steal anything. So we don't need economic security anymore, right? And I kind of view it that the node operator needing to have a relationship with the bond provider as a problem, not a good thing. Is like, why do they need to have a relationship? I should just be able to provide my liquidity. It's both sides of the relationship are helping each other out. The bond provider is now getting yield on their ruin, and so is the node operator. They're getting a cut of whatever the fee they're getting from the provider bonders. And that's just my 2 cents. There's no right answer here, but yeah, it's a good
Well,
place to talk about it.
if there's no relationship, then why have a bond for the node at all? Just have nodes, node operators, no bond.
It is an
I
interesting
think
point.
I think even if you go to DKLS, you still need um, security in that sense. The only thing that DKLS really changes is that you're going from a 6 Asgards with 20 members in each to a single Asgard with 100 and whatever the current number of nodes are, 110 or whatever the number is. And so the idea of capturing that one Asgard vault with 110 things, it's a lot more required. You would need like 70 some odd, 72 nodes to capture that, which would be obviously extremely difficult to do, even with a B rune thing. Because even in that B rune scenario, you can actually limit the number of nodes that B rune actually runs, quote unquote, or so to speak. So like I still think you need to be considerate, but DKLS does make things more difficult to collude or steal funds, and I'm looking forward to that day when we kind of move to that one when we can. But you still need security no matter what. And I think what Kenton's trying to say, or one of the things Kenton's trying to say, is like part of the reason why if you're bonding to a node and you don't know the operator, then like what's to stop them from fucking you over, right? Like protocol protects you in some sense, like you can't steal your rune necessarily. But if that operator were to like spin up a second node that has the same private key as the first node, and then they start double signing all the blocks, which is like a big no-no in proof of stake networks, your rune will start get slashed. And then all of a sudden you can get slashed to freaking zero. It partially happened a few years ago where somebody accidentally spun up a backup node that was a clone of the first node, and they lost like I think it was like 250,000 rune because of that mistake. And so like you would want the ability to yell at Kenton for losing all your rune in that hypothetical scenario, you know. But the number, like the ways that an operator can lose your rune is so small and really difficult to happen. It's extremely small to occur.
The thing I think about is when we go to individualized chain clients per node, right? Where maybe XMR only has 20 nodes that run it. I have no idea. I'm just making up numbers. But would okay, in your calculus, Chad, does that change the game theory when it comes to the decentralized nation of the network? Yeah, I don't know.
Um, Not a lot. I mean, the way that I was thinking about, and I'm working on that feature when I have the time to do so. But um, when we have a scenario where we have opt-in chain security, where you can have, Monero, right? Monero is a kind of a hotly contested chain, for example. Maybe not everybody would want to run a Monero daemon and whatnot. The security of those chains are a little more aggressive, they're a bit more strict, right? And for good reason, right? So we will probably say like if you have 5 nodes that are validating, Monero, for example, then the maximum amount of depth to the pools, the Monero pools, can be 500,000 room, which is like basically like a tenth of what those nodes actually have. So that in that scenario, you go back to what's closer to a more stricter mentality about security, just because you only have 5 nodes that are validating this particular chain, and hypothetically. But once you get to like the entire protocol, like all the nodes combined together, then it becomes a little bit like, you can be a bit more relaxed because the amount of effort and time and money that it would take to capture the entire protocol is just like, pretty goddamn arduous, if you ask me.
Yeah, I like that. I would think if we did that, like you had the arbitrary limitation, just use your 500K example, then we would pretty much be a solely POL model, right? Because when that limit was hit, there would be no rewards going to that pool, even if there was massive swap volume. Is my understanding correct?
Uh, there would still be rewards going to the pool. Could that push it over the 500,000 cap? Yeah, I suppose so, but you're not gonna go from 500,000
Yeah,
to, you know,
right.
5,000,000, you know? That's just unlikely. Um, and not to mention that, like, as the rune price performs well in a hypothetical scenario, the 500,000 rune would actually go down. Like, the quantity of Monero would increase in the pool, the quantity of rune would go down in the pool. And obviously, conversely, it can go the other way around. If rune price absolutely dives, the quantity of rune in the pool would go up from 500,000 to 1,000,000 or whatever, and then Monero quantity would go down.
Right.
Either or.
Right. And in the example where let's just say there was stupid volume in the Monero pool and there's only 5 nodes, Kenton, if he wasn't a node, he'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm wanting in on that action." So yeah, I think the game theory covers it from all aspects. So yeah.
Right. If you have a shallow pool, you know, like we did Monero. Monero's a good example because we're like we would be the only Monero supporters in the industry, right? Which I think would be pretty amazing, right? And we probably would get a decent amount of volume from that. And if we are getting a decent amount of volume, those 5 nodes supporting that volume are getting massive rewards, right? They're getting like 80% rewards. I don't know, I'm making up random numbers, but they're getting massive rewards for supporting a chain that no other like DEX supports in the world. And then all of a sudden, you know, I think if Kenton was an operator, Kenton would say, well, I want to get a piece of that action. I'll be the 6th node, I'll be the 7th node, I'll be the 8th node, I'll be the 9th node. And so that the natural thing to occur, I think, is just that like, is that as chains are in demand in terms of volume, that will just garner more or less security for those chains.
I like it. I like it. Yeah. Gosh dang, guys, it's been a great conversation. Kenton, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that or whatever?
No, that's good. It has been a great one. I have to get going here anyway, so I'm good to wrap it up if you guys
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Chad, do you have
Yeah.
anything else you want to, or are we all good to go?
I think we're good to go, bud.
All right. Hey, man, thank you guys so much for coming up, asking questions. And thank you, Chad, for your time away. 2.5 hours, very generous. And great job, Kenton, on your introduction regarding, the marketing stuff and your article. And again, it's up at the top, guys. I know it's not going to be for the recording, but it's up there if you want to click on it. Please do read it. He worked very hard on it. This Saturday, guys, we're going to have THORWald. I see Crypto XZ in the audience. What's up, buddy? We're going to be talking to you. I love the THORWald team. Excellent, Chads. Really looking forward to having with them. And then next week, we have a couple ideas of what it might be. We'll make an announcement later. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, guys, so we'll be in touch. But otherwise, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. This has been an awesome episode. It's been fantastic. We'll see you guys Saturday with THORWald. Have a great day, everybody. Bye now.
All right, guys. Later.